Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Total world victory of Hare Krishna. My name is Sitapati Das, and welcome to this episode of Vaishnava Perspectives on the Modern World. Today we're going to be joined by our special guest, Govinda Dasi. We're just still waiting for her to join us. But at the moment, you're here with me, El Que Habla, Sitapati Das, my wife, Dana Devi, His Holiness Gaura Prabhu, disciple of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Welcome. And Muchakunda Das from the Northland of New Zealand. Thank you for joining us, and welcome and thank you to all of the viewers who are tuning in right now. all the notifications.
Hare Krishna.
I'll mute your mic, Prabhu, so you can have some privacy with your conversation there. Okay, so I'm going to post the stream into the group. Let's have a look. Okay, we've got 2 people watching. If you're watching, give us a shout out. Let us know where you're watching from. We're using a new platform now, StreamYard, so we can pull in comments from the stream. Okay, we are live here. And then that's a yes, Gaura. Let's go for it. Let me go back to the comment stream. Here we go. Show. Michael McNeish is tuning in. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Thank you for choosing to spend your Sunday morning with us here. It's Sunday morning here in New Zealand. Saturday evening where you are, Gaura Prabhu?
That's correct.
And Achyutananda Das, dialing in from the UK. Hari Bol. So we're going to bring in also Mahabuddhi Prabhu, another disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And we're still waiting on Govinda Dasi to call in from the United States. Having a little bit of a technical challenge there.
I have some memories of Govinda Das. If you'd like me to read some of them to share, if you like, or
let's start from there, Prabhu. You're reading or listening to her new book at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah. Would you like to hear from that?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. There's actually nothing I love more than reading books with the devotees. So this is chapter 21, A New Beginning, and she's writing in the third person. Less than a week after meeting the Swami, Bani, which is Govinda Dasi, and Garrett, who will become Gaura Sundar, her partner at that time, had gotten lucky, and they found a flat on Carl Street, only 2 blocks from the temple. Rentals, so this is in San Francisco, 1967. Rentals near Golden Gate Park are hard to find, and they feel blessed. It is a bright and sunny place with a big bay window overlooking a garden. A great improvement over their dismal attic near Market Street. Now they are only a 5-minute walk from Swamiji and the temple. The lighting in the Carl Street flat is excellent. Bonnie and Garrett purchase a big 4x4 panel and begin to design the painting of Radha Krishna and the Surabhi cow that the Swami has requested. Garrett, Gaura Sundar, reads Srimad Bhagavatam to Bonnie while she paints. Early morning chanting, Swamiji's classes, painting, and reading all day, then evening class. This is their new life. They are happy. For the first time, they feel they are fulfilling their life's purpose. The day of their spiritual initiation arrives. Bonnie and Garrett bring the bananas, barley, sesame seeds, and butter they have bought, and bunches of flowers freshly picked from the park. That's how Hare Krishna tradition, picking flowers from. I've done it myself. Uh, a large pan of soil sits before them, and alongside it are small stacks of kindling. Paper cups of colored rice flour, red, yellow, blue, green, orange, and white, sit beside the pan. Large bowls of sesame seeds, pearl barley, and sweet smelling ghee sit nearby. On a small plate are two sets of wooden neck beads, and the two larger plates hold their big red wooden beads. Garrett and Bonnie had stayed up, stringing those big beads the night before, carefully knotting the string between each bead, then dipping the crown bead in wax. It took over 3 hours. Bonnie clutches a large folded piece of cloth that she purchased to be given as a gift to the Swami. Dakshin, it is called. Garrett sits cross-legged in his denim Levi's and jacket. Bonnie sits cross-legged in her beige, paint-stained jeans. Both are clean, fresh-faced, and ready to start their new life. Bonnie eyes the wood kindling and pan of dirt. She had been to Girl Scout camp many times, and so she's quite expert at building campfires. Thinking to help, she takes pieces of kindling and carefully builds a small teepee formation of the pan of dirt. On the
Prabhuji,
pan of dirt. Her idea is to save time for. Yes. Yes.
I think Mahabuddhi just joined and then quit again before I could add him to the stream.
Okay.
Oh, he's back.
What would
I'm
you like
adding
me to
him into
do?
the stream
Contact him?
now. No, here he is. Here he is. Here. Hare Krishna, welcome, Prabhu.
Jai, Jai Mahabuddhi Prabhu Ki Jai. Can you hear us? Mahabuddhi Prabhu. Doesn't sound like he's hearing us. We're hearing him. Hare Krishna. Mahabuddhi. We're seeing the crown of his head. Okay. Should I stop? Should I not read for a while, Sitapati?
Hare Krishna. Are you able to call him on a number?
What do you want me to say to him?
Hey, you're in the stream, but because he obviously can't hear us right now.
To you again?
Yeah, maybe you could give him a call and support him in getting onto the stream.
Okay. I just sent him a WhatsApp message. We see you in the stream, but can't hear you. So,
Yeah. Okay. Great. Technical issues here, folks. We're having today. We'll get through it. I'll put you on mute while you're speaking to him, Gora, and we'll chat about other things while you're doing that. Thank you.
Yep.
Hare Krishna. So this sounds like the recounting of the initiation of Govinda Dasi and Gora Sundar Prabhu, because they were mentioned as Bonnie and not Bonnie and Clyde, but Bonnie and what was Gora Sundar's name? Gary, I think. Gareth.
And Bunny.
And Bonnie. Yeah.
Bonnie. No.
Bonnie.
Okay.
So we're going to get Mahabuddhi on the stream. We're still trying to get hold of Mother Govinda. She might have had
She's in the woods.
internet fail because she lives in a remote location, a remote undisclosed location now. I'll try calling her again from here. You can see if you can get hold of her. Yeah, we can try again. Okay, Mahabuddhi's coming back. You can unmute your mic if you're ready to talk again, Gora Prabhu. Here is Mahabuddhi Das. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Can you hear us now? We can hear you, Prabhu, but it sounds like you can't hear us.
I can hear now. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hare
fantastic.
Krishna.
We can hear you, Prabhu.
Ooh,
Loud and clear.
success.
Yeah, obviously I'm not going to win any technical awards.
Yeah, that's all good. Thank you for joining us. Gora, you need to, I'll unmute you. You were mute. Your mic was muted, Gora.
Thank you. Should you Would you like Mahabuddhi to introduce himself, or should I continue with reading from Govinda Dasi?
Let's now that Mahabuddhi Prabhu has joined us, do you have the book there to hold up to show people what you were reading from, Prabhu?
I'm actually reading from a PDF, but I could look up the cover.
Okay.
But
It's all good.
I wouldn't know how to show it.
Sure, that's all fine. So yeah, let's move into the live action in that case. Thank you for joining us, Mahabuddhi Prabhu. Perhaps, I don't know, Gora, if you would like to introduce Mahabuddhi, if you would like to introduce yourself.
I first met Mahabuddhi as Dr. Glenn when I was at the Chicago Temple in 1975. This special kind of like a crack team, SWAT team, Prabhupada SWAT team of commandos known as the Library Party came to our Chicago Temple of Sri Sri Kishore Kishori. And on this party was Ganesham, who went on to become Bhakti Tirtha Swami, Kalakanta, who is now temple president at the Krishna House in Gainesville, Mahabuddhi Swami, who's been preaching in Russia for many years, Gokulananda Prabhu, who served in Montreal for many years, Tadvavit Prabhu, who is a major editor of many books, who lives in Radha Desh mostly. And who else Mahabuddhi Prabhu was, refresh my memory on that party?
Sahotra Swami, Shesha Prabhu, and let's see who else that you didn't mention. Sri Galim.
Yeah, so this one, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, and so I remember when Satsrup Maharaj's party arrived, library party, they were given a test. They were given tests to do on the Bhagavad Gita. And I still have one of those tests that I saved from 1975 somewhere. And I thought that was special because, you know, the mood at the Chicago Temple was you get your rounds done and gung-ho, hit the beach, get out to O'Hare Krishna Airport and pump out the books with Tripurari Swami and his Radha Damodar party. But Mahabuddhi Prabhu was part of this crack team who I considered to be intellectuals, because I figured you'd have to be pretty smart to infiltrate into a university and convince the deans of departments of religion at Yale and Harvard and Princeton, etc. So I'd love to hear sometime, if we could reserve some time just for Mahabuddhi, about all the infiltration work and what he encountered in going to these top universities of the world to sell full sets of Prabhupada's books. He does speak about it to some degree in his memories. He also refreshed my memory that he was in charge of all of Prabhupada's darshans for 5 years in both Mayapur and Vrindavan. He decided, well, I guess based on who Prabhupada wanted to see, he would allow them in or not allow them in to the darshans with Srila Prabhupada. So in that sense, I thought he had something in common with you, Sitapati Prabhu, that Mahabuddhi has this kshatriya spirit, you know, as an administrator. He was in charge of Prabhupada's palace for how many years, Mahabuddhi Prabhu?
About 4 years, 4 or 5 years. We took it from 300 people to over 3 million people, visitors.
Oh, amazing. And now you are overseeing, looking at, well, you established the Florida Vedic College, and you actually were offering people bona fide university degrees based on the philosophy of
That's the Rupanuga Florida Vedic College? Is that what that's called?
The Rupanuga Florida Vedic College is a spin-off. Donavir took all the stuff that I did, and he wanted to create his own little place in Kansas City. He did. I don't advertise much in ISKCON. ISKCON had offered me $50,000 to sell the college to him as long as I would leave it, and they could do whatever they want with it. And I said, no, sorry. Prabhupada gave me some instructions, which is a lot different than what ISKCON uses for its educational platform. He didn't want us to become pedantic Brahmins and go to their universities to obtain degrees. He wanted them to come to us and for us to teach the science. And he said, if you do this, then gradually they will come, rather than we're going to them in these like they're trying to mimic in Belgium and what they're doing some of these other places in ISKCON. Prabhupada didn't want that. So all these people that went back to school, like Hridayananda, I won't talk about Garuda, you had him on your program before, but Krishna Kshetra and some of the other devotees that had went back to become like Sanskritists or Indologists. Prabhupada didn't want that. Now, in fact, there's many. I was there during Hridayananda Maharaj's when he was like told not to do these things. So this has become a lot of ISKCON has become more of a rather than knowledge to the heart. Prabhupada gave me this one verse I have to chant every day. Te sam satidiyuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenam payanti te. And if you read all the major literatures like Govinda Lilamrita, Prema Bhakti Chandrika, you read many of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's and Rupa Goswami's literature, the knowledge in Krishna consciousness is not aimed at the brain, it goes to the heart. So you can't displace Vigyan with Gyan. The pursuit of Gyan is not Bhakti. It's Gyan Mishra Karma, Gyan Mishra Bhakti, but pure Bhakti is not Gyan. So the study, of is another, of course, is another implementation. You can definitely say it, studying scriptures and think is this like is a devotional activity, which it is, but we're not trying to be jnanis, or we're not trying to be Atma Gyan is one thing, but it's revealed through the heart, not revealed through the brain. So you can't just study the books and then all of a sudden something. I think there was a good interview I saw that you had with Nrsingananda and Rasaraj, and where Rasaraj was basically saying that knowledge has to be where Prabhupada, you see Prabhupada not just as the Vani, but as the Vapu. Also, as the Vapu, as personally, whether it's in his deity form or his Murti, or whether it's through his teachings, whatever, as your relationship is developed, you can be, sorry about that, you can be, if you're fortunate, your relationship with Prabhupada can be more than just, I'm just studying. It can be imparted the knowledge to the heart. So the same way in Bhakti, in Krishna, he imparts information through the heart by the words of the pure devotee, coming through the ears and affecting the heart. So too much has been set up to the brain where we think like the materialists, where we think we can understand everything in the limitations of our small brain. So that's caused a lot of, this mass transformation and all sorts of other unhappiness, which is a signs of impersonalism, by us thinking that everything is understandable, yet our philosophy is achinta, achinta beta beta tattva, which means it's, it's inconceivable for us tiny humans. So, but we're able to understand something of it. So my business in the library party, and one of the reasons I'm saying this for you guys, is that, Prabhupada gave us a fairly good indoctrination, not to become victim of thinking, these scholars actually know something. And Bhakti Tirtha and I and many members of our traveling party actually understood that. And we're engaging them in service, but we had no interest in what they were doing, what they were saying. Mostly, we saw many drunks and many just really unfortunate types of individuals posing as actually scholars and learned. So, they were cheating society, and often Prabhupada would call these professors that came into his rooms and came to his darshans in different places. He'd just run them up the flagpole and just, blast them. I remember in Temple University, there was the big Sanskritist, the big Indologist. He was like acting like a guru on campus and stuff. And I remember Rabindra Swarup and I had brought him from Temple University to Philadelphia Temple, and Prabhupada was there. And Prabhupada tore into him and called him a cheater, and this guy just hung his head down low, and Prabhupada, just because he was Indian, he just didn't let up on him. And so often Prabhupada would really blast these, the so-called scholars that were like, trying to interpret Chaitanya Charitamrita. I mean, there were some really dastardly interpretations, who gave some sort of, material understanding on Srimad Bhagavatam. So we don't have a healthy respect for so-called scholarship in this area, because it's not our Gaudiya tradition. Now, the difference is there is real scholars, and there are devotee scholars, and there are people who are friendly scholars. So in our travels, we would incorporate like a mailman. We knew everybody in the field, and we could use whatever we needed to do to convince them, but we didn't have attraction to them. Although some of our people, Mahakram Swami at that point, Subhananda, they both became overly, in the light of professors, they become distray and they actually end up leaving Krishna consciousness to try to become academicians. Anyway, that's straying off your points, but I just thought I'd give that little bit of understanding. Generally, I wouldn't agree with Garuda, but your last video, I agreed very strongly with him. So I'm glad to see his 25 years in college actually produce something. Hare Krishna.
Oh, that's great. I think Garuda Prabhu might actually be watching the video right now. So shout outs to
That's okay.
Garuda Das Kaviraj.
I appreciate, I have no apologies for my words. I appreciate his stand on Prabhupada's books, and I commend him for that. I don't know if I would go to school for 25 years to become an academician. That's his choice. But I certainly wouldn't have ego about it, thinking, oh, this is really great. I'm wonderful. I'm better than everyone else. And usually that's what happens. And, but Trinadapi, Sunuchena, Tarodapi, Vistana. So if that's being presented by him, then I give my dandavats to my god brother. If not, so be it. At least we agree on one point.
You used pedantic Brahmins. You were saying Prabhupada didn't want us to become pedantic Brahmins, correct? What does that mean? What is a pedantic Brahmin, as opposed to what Prabhupada wanted?
Prabhupada wanted real Brahmins. He didn't want the oh boy, I just forgot what the names of the boy, I must be getting old, and my recall is getting. But he didn't want Brahmas just in name or just in scholarship or just, showing I'm a Brahmin and here's my Brahmin thread and I'm better than you, I'm in the 4th class, and then they go back and smoke beaties and have illicit sex and all this. He wanted Brahmins that would actually follow not only the principles and regulations, but also would be a complement to society, not taking from the society, but giving to it by real knowledge and by real example of humility and real example of scholarship and real example of practical work, not just, ego and claiming position and so-called scholarship without any realization. That's what not Prabhupada wanted. And so, or being able to just quote a lot of verses, but have no realization of what they're talking about.
Yet Prabhupada said he wanted all of his disciples to be in charge of every department of religion at the universities. There's that quote as well, right?
I missed what you said, Gaur. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Prabhupada was saying in one letter, I want my disciples to be in charge of all the departments of religion at the universities.
Yeah. Because real religion is, I mean, we would go, I'll give you an example. We would go, the head person in Washington Lee, there, Washington College in St. Louis, right? Big Catholic university, lots of people. And this was the big Catholic Mahant, right? He was like the man on campus. Everyone would offer their dundabutts to him, and he was and so, when we went to meet him, he pulled out from his desk, a fifth of whiskey, and you don't mind, do you? It's like, the guy was a drunk. He was a chain smoker, and he was this person of like, and he's the religious leader. I mean, these are like, the people that the ordinary people are posing in front of religion. So the devotees, as true devotees, they're devotees of God. They're actually become empowered. They're his representatives. They're following the orders of the spiritual master and of their sadhana. Therefore, they're able to have some realization about really what is the spiritual truth. Because not only have they heard it, they're actually imbibed in it, and they can actually enact it as they're empowered by their purity and by their following of Guru and Krishna. So those people should be in charge of religion, because they can actually communicate what is religion, and whether it's they're studying other religions. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's written very nicely in Jaiva Dharma how the other religions compare to Vaishnavism in the establishment of love. There is no higher principle in the actual development of love of God than we see in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his enunciation of Krishna consciousness through our Achinta Beta Beta philosophy and our development of Radhadasyam and what he came to teach as his Gauravani. There is no higher principle in each of the different personal religions, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, like that. There are different stair steps on that platform and how much they reveal love of God. Not that we speak against them, but you can see in a comparative basis. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur made the point: compare it. Don't just Mahabuddhi's platform is. You can compare and see what is higher, what is actually revealing more of the love of God. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and revealed the highest platform, which had not been revealed even before by Madhvacharya or Ramanujacharya, Nindavadita Swami, any of those, any of them. And what to speak of the Jesus and the other Christian followers, even though they may be also Shaktivish avatar, some, their revelation to their followers was to time, place, and circumstance, was not very eloquent and not very detailed. So therefore, there's a lot of confusion in what is God and who is God. And in our society, our Sangha, they've misplaced where Prabhupada is. I mean, Prabhupada's position is not equal to 10,000 or 200 of the acharya, the so-called gurus that have been made by Vox Populi. Prabhupada never announced that, and all of a sudden, the more gurus there are, Prabhupada's position goes lower and lower. They wonder, because they don't know they don't know Guru Tattva, they wonder, well, what's wrong? And meanwhile, you have people saying, oh, Prabhupada is a material person and he didn't know, and all this garbage from some of the disciples of my godbrothers. This is this incredulous. So right now we have a cult versus a religious platform in that particular Sangha. There's other Sanghas of Krishna consciousness.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
I'd like to go into that.
Probably don't invite me again because I'll speak.
Excuse me to everyone. In the meantime, behind the scenes, I've been contacting Govinda Dasi. I sent her a Facebook message. I sent her an email. And I just got a Facebook message from her just now, and she says, does nothing when I try to access it. I sent her the link. It is 5:35. I was told 5:30, so I've been here trying. What do you want me to tell her about?
Gore, the link that the first you sent me was the Facebook link, but when you came back, you sent me whatever this is, this StreamYard. You may have to send her the StreamYard link. Because when you sent me the Facebook link and it doesn't go into this.
No, I just sent her StreamYard.
The StreamYard, yeah, the Facebook link is for people to watch. The StreamYard link is for those who are participating.
Right.
Oh, well, I couldn't even watch it when on the Facebook link. It didn't show up at all.
I'll tell
So
you.
you might want to
You
check
need to
that.
go into the discussion there. Yep.
Okay, I sent it to her again. StreamYard.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay, so the on that point, Prabhu. So you covered a lot of ground there.
Which one?
Which is really great.
Which?
Yeah, exactly. So this last point, the last one. So we got this idea of these disciples. You're talking disciples of your God brothers who say that Prabhupada was an ordinary man. He was conditioned and this kind of relative way of, or it's almost like an academic way of assessing him, right? Because as an academic, you can't actually just accept the thing as it is. You have to apply some kind of analytical filter to it. And so in doing that, applying these analytical filters to Srila Prabhupada, you come out with these analyses of him like he was conditioned by, his upbringing or his culture, background, that kind of thing. And the last thing that you said was, we don't have a religion, we have a cult. I would say that, unfortunately, we don't have a cult, which is what we're meant to be. Like, see, from the academic perspective, if you just take this guy as like, okay, what he says is the thing, that's a cult. And we don't have that now. And that's what we actually need. What do you think of that?
We've got a cult of ignorance. I mean, anyone who sees Prabhupada was sent down from Radharani and Krishna to this material world, okay, to preach. And anyone who knows the discussion Prabhupada had, and he said, he didn't want to come here, and he was promised, okay, you can, be able to have houses. Prabhupada sat on the bench in New York City talking to him and says, I have so many temples and so many restaurants and so many gurukuls and so many farms. They're just not yet manifested. Prabhupada is not an ordinary man by any means, nor is any of our acharyas on our Gaudiya line. All of them, they're all Rupanuga Vaishnavas, Raganuga Vaishnavas. They all have direct descendancy in the spiritual line. It's not like they were just on the street and all of a sudden they were made guru like right now, and they have no. They know Trikala Gyan, which means they know past, present, and future. And so one person was challenging when I was at a guard for one of the darshans for Prabhupada. And luckily I went to hundreds of darshans over, Prabhupada. And one person was challenging, well, how can you say you're all-knowing? He couldn't get around his head, omnipotent and omniscient, right? And, he was like making these points, and Prabhupada was just tolerating first. And he said, he was being humble first. I am just an ordinary person because this person was good. He said, but whatever I need to know, Krishna gives me the information. So the question is, Krishna is all-knowing. So as a jiva soul, we may not be all-knowing, but because the connection in the heart is there with Krishna, whatever you need to know is provided to you. And then others, so I mean, like those with no faith claim themselves to be disciples. Disciples of what? Maya? Because they're not disciples of Prabhupada. They're not following any of his instructions. I mean, that not that we're here to criticize everyone, we first have to criticize ourselves. But the bottom line is, like, if you want to call it, you want to call it cult, or you want to call it just a problem of following instructions, or just it's veered off the point, so far off the point that when I heard you guys were that interview with Nisringananda said you can't bring it back. With the I think it was with Damodar and I forget the other person's name, Gorp. But it was a very, very nice interview. And the Nisringananda, who was been involved for like 25 years, and Sabha and all, they're trying to, work with this. And he basically said it's not possible to bring back. So from its current situation, because many of those devotees don't want to change. They don't want to have a change. So
hey, we got Chris Briscoe here in the stream. He's just joined. My apologies for interrupting you, Mahabuddhi Prabhu. I just want to introduce Chris here. This is actually the first time that we've seen each other in person, but Chris got me on Gareth Icke's show, David Icke's son. So in December of 2021, I had like a 12-minute segment on the show, and Chris was the devotee who hooked that up. And I think you're calling in from the UK, Chris? Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. Yes. It's just I just got home. I saw there was this message on this on this thing this group of people I'd been somehow admitted to. So I just clicked on it, and suddenly here I am.
Live. It's Krishna's arrangement.
Wow.
Prabhu, excuse me. I just sent you the latest Govinda Dasi message. Did you read it yet?
What was that?
No, that was meant for me. No, I if you could this is a real juggling act here. I'm just gonna say this out loud.
Chris, are you a techie? Do you know how to help people with internet problems?
No, not really. I mean, I did a master's degree in computer science, but that was about 30 years ago, and I've spent my time forgetting all that since then.
What do you want me to say to Govinda Dasi, Sitapati?
Just let her know that we'll bring her on next week,
okay.
And we'll test it if she can, we'll test it during the week, and we'll get everything working perfectly.
Yeah, I'll tell her.
So, yeah, and we're gonna roll with what's happening here, for our viewers. I apologize for the technical issues of getting Govinda Dasi on this week. We will bring her back next week, and by Krishna's arrangement, this week we've got Chris Briscoe, Mahabuddhi Prabhu, and Gaura Prabhu. And so maybe, okay, so one thing for our viewers, just to let you know, you can leave questions, comments in the comments thread on Facebook underneath the post, and we can bring them into the stream. So if you have questions, if anything comes up that you want to hear more about, or there's something you want to contribute to the conversation, drop them into the comment section and we will pull them in. So maybe we could just take a moment now. Chris, you could introduce yourself for the viewers to give them a sense of who you are and where you're coming from. Also for our panelists today, Mahabuddhi Prabhu, Gaura, and Muchakunda.
Yes. Well, hello. I just clicked on this. Didn't expect to suddenly come into this. So, I got in touch with Krishna consciousness about in 1992, and that was the same year I sort of heard about David Icke. So, at the current moment, those are really my two main interests. But with regard to Krishna consciousness, I became interested in it, and at that time, I was doing a master's degree down at a university, so that was difficult. But God got through it and everything. But I think it's a long story. It's a long story, but I did something in 2000. I organised a festival. This is like the main thing I did, back in 2000, and got Tribhuvannath into it. This was 31st anniversary of the installation of the deities in London, but after that, I sort of gradually faded away because one thing that got me at the time was the book Changes. Nobody seemed to want to do anything about it, and I just felt I wasn't a little bit. What's the point of me staying in this sort of ISKCON organisation? And if I'm going to be in a minority of one, it's not really worth point. So just basically getting on with my life, doing some other things, and keep dabbling a bit. But last 3 years changed a lot of that. I started to get more into sort of David Icke was saying, and then started thinking about Krishna consciousness, and that it's got something to say about all this. And there's seems to be a connection between a lot of the Krishna consciousness people as profound and incredible as so many of them are, and I'm very pleased I've found people like Gora Das on this internet, yourself, Sita Buddy. This is you said at the beginning, I did introduce you to get the Gareth Ike show. You had a 12-minute interview on that. To me, that's the best thing I've done in these three years, actually getting you on there, getting some sort of connection. But I just think it's absolutely unbelievable. There's hardly any connection between, well, from my perspective, there's probably is more stuff I don't know, but it just seems to me there's not so much connection between sort of the Krishna consciousness and the whole worldwide, what we say, for want of a better expression, truth movement. The pushback against this whole COVID, climate change, everything narrative. And Govinda has been like every day pushing stuff on there, on the Facebook. Absolutely fantastic. And but yeah, somehow there's, I don't see any reason why you can't get devotees more onto these other sort of channels. I mean, it's going to mean getting connection with sort of more sort of new age stuff, but not compromising, but just putting our views across and then just seeing. I mean, you people are sort of fighting against these, it's mainstream ISKCON saying, hey, this isn't the way you do things, and real reason is because of infiltration. Government affairs institutions infiltrate these societies, and the tricks to see sort of how and why, and a bit, not even necessarily the people who are doing it, but the results and the misunderstandings from it.
Excuse me, excuse me for interrupting, Chris. I'm interested, if you agree to go in this direction, Sitapati. I'm interested to hear Mahabuddhi Prabhu's perspective, since he's been a manager, an administrator, and he knows all the leaders, major leaders in ISKCON, what his perspective is on why there seems to be this disconnect between the leadership of ISKCON and the truth movement that Chris Prabhu is making reference to. Is that all right if I address that, or you want to go somewhere else?
Yeah, I think that's good. One thing, Gora, it sounded like you got like notifications going off in the background that are quite loud.
Oh, excuse me.
It might be from another browser tab there. I don't know if you can close those or mute those tabs. That would be great. But I think, yeah, let's do this because we're rolling with who we've got. The topics are book changes, civilizational meltdown, and shape-shifting demons. So there's like a whole, this is the perfect episode to introduce Chris. I also want to do another episode with some devotees who are great bridge building personalities like Bhatta Ryan Prabhu. And Chris as well, and then bring on Paul Seals and Dineshra, deep reptilian conspiracy kind of analyst. And yeah, like, let's go in this direction. Mahabuddhi Prabhu, what can you share with us about like why this question that Gora's asking, that a number of devotees have been asking, like, hang on a second, I thought I joined the counterculture, reptilian infiltration, the dark entities behind Duryodhana and Kamsa, like, asuras are real and the world is a battleground between the devas and the demigods, and now suddenly I'm being told that the UN is like the shining light and we should eat the bugs and get into the cubicle. Oh, and we have Govinda Dasi here as well. We're gonna drop her in and then we'll just jump. Let's bring Govinda Dasi in.
Yay.
Hare Krishna.
Harion.
Wow.
It's happening. We got
That
the band together.
was very difficult and almost impossible.
I apologize for that. That's all on me. I apologize. I'm sorry for putting you through that. And thank you for doing what it takes to get on here with us. We're with we have a number of people on here at the moment. We've got Chris Briscoe, who connected me with David Icke and the Gareth Ike show. He's based in the UK, and we have your godbrother Mahabuddhi Prabhu, who
Mahabuddhi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. We just asked, so Chris has just asked the question. Sorry, Chris just introduced himself. Gora is asking the question to Mahabuddhi Prabhu, why is the movement responding in the main the way that it is to the whole COVID, the Great Reset, the one world government, which is a conspiracy, but it's also literally a conference where they're talking about implementing it at the same time. Why is ISKCON responding the way that it has been responding? So I would like to give Mahabuddhi the opportunity to respond to that, and then I'd like to come back to you, Govinda Dasi, and have you create for the viewers who don't know who you are, and then also for you to speak to that point. Is that okay with you if we do it like that?
Yes, fine. Fine. What is
Okay,
this
great.
meeting over? Can you just give me an overview of what this meeting is? Because I did attend the one yesterday, but
Yes.
that's a different subject, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, this one today is about book changes, civilizational meltdown, and shape-shifting demons.
Oh, you want me to do what? A shapeshift for you?
Live on air for the first time, never seen before. It's an exclusive. Yeah.
Hare
So that's
Krishna
kind of our broad.
Mahabuddhi.
That's our broad topic for today.
I see.
So, how about we go to we cut to Mahabuddhi Prabhu now, and then we can come back to you, and that gives you an opportunity to sort of get settled into the space and into the topic. Is that okay?
Okay.
Why,
Yes,
why
that
don't you let
sounds
her
fine.
speak? Why don't you let Govinda Dasi speak? She was like the main attraction for your program. You know, I could just give a one sentence comment on what you said. Because they've been usurped, the leadership been usurped. They're taking money from Paramal, from Taurus. They sucked in by this mass formation. They're bought into the idea of this whole, New World Order kind of guys. And supporting the World Health Organizations and all these other crazy things at the extent not following Prabhupada's instructions. So, I mean, what do from my perspective, most of Prabhupada's disciples who can do critical thinking have left at least if not left the movement, they've at least left accepting the authority of the GBC at anywhere in their life as not representative of Prabhupada. Those that still follow that, generally speaking, the devotees have become employees. As they centralized all these different temples, there's no longer, the devotees are now employees that can be fired, and if they don't agree with whatever the leadership, the GBC, temple president, whatever, and we've seen so many times already, they'll either get asked to leave, or they get silenced in the sense of being banned. And like myself, I'm banned not for not following principles or stuff like that, for just speaking out. So more people listen to you now than by when they say, "Oh, we don't want you to say anything, Mahabuddhi, because we don't want to have the truth." And although for most of the GBC, for probably the 85-90% of them, I have more association than they had with Prabhupada. So I mean, I just see that they're not following, and there's a lot of personal, not only pratista, but also monetarily, and a lot of peer pressure that, to maintain for the sake of the society over the individual. Otherwise, how could they do the things like they're doing to children, and it's supporting that with a blind eye? It's just, we're trying to look at the society and save society rather than correct the ills. And then, if you've heard Nrsinga's comment, they've been told all this stuff and they don't want to do it. So who wants to follow leaders that aren't really leaders? And then they're not following Prabhupada. I'm sorry, maybe others want to try to change things from within, but I don't see that as, maybe Krishna can do that. Not maybe, but could, but it's not going to happen by some committee or some internal overthrow from the people that think they're there for the life. They don't want to, jump off that, whatever. And there's a distinction between sincerity and intelligence. That was brought up yesterday. You can be very sincere and make a lot of messed up decisions because your intelligence has been thwarted. And where does that intelligence comes from? It comes from Krishna, te sam satiyuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamo bayantite. It's to those who constantly devote and worship me. I give them the intelligence. Not that they obtain it from books, not that they give it from their own opinion, but if they're actually following strictly, then Krishna provides that information to you. And that's the distinction of a personal relationship with God versus some theoretical platform. I'll let Govinda Dasi speak. So I'll mute myself from that.
Thank you
Prabhu.
very much, Mahabuddhi Prabhu. Thank you very much. Everything you said is extremely accurate. I totally agree with you, 100%. There's no question. The problem started before Prabhupada left. I'm from such a different generation. I'm from his generation. We're all grandpas now, grandmas and grandpas. And so the culture that you have to deal with is very different from the one that we dealt with. A lot of the stuff that's going on right now is just absolutely insane. There's no other way to put it. It's total. And a lot of these, I understand what Dana was saying yesterday. It is important that we address these issues that seem insane and absurd, like the gender issue and stuff like that. But there are a lot of young people who really want to become devotees, who are attracted to Krishna consciousness, and they are being infiltrated by the mainstream media that's pumping out all of this propaganda. And yeah, right now is a critical time. Kala time. The Kala Purusha, that's who's going to change things. And it is changing. Right now, you can see it changing. You can see all of this, the whistleblowers coming out, all the people losing faith because of the back-scratching gurus with protecting all of these child molesters. And you also see what he just mentioned, the promoting the globalist propaganda, which, yeah, you're right. They got paid for it. There's no question. We have inside information. They were definitely paid for it. And also you have some of the big pharma leaders. The whole thing is absolutely corrupt. And you're right. Most of Prabhupada's disciples, 90% of Prabhupada's disciples left after Srila Prabhupada left, at least in America. I don't know about Australia and New Zealand. I've never been there. But I'm sure that it was filtered down to your countries, wherever you are. I don't know what to say about all of it, really, other than right now. In 1986, I think that was the year that Halley's Comet hit. Comets, Prabhupada used to say, are like the policeman's flashlight. They shine and the bad guys run away. The criminals run away. So comets, when they come around, and eclipses make changes. So when that comet hit, dictators all over the world fell down or got deposed, or there were coups. And that is when most of the Grand 11 left. And it was about that time, before that time actually, that I was in Vrindavan. After Prabhupada left, I used to travel to Vrindavan. I used to travel to India every year. I never really left ISKCON or left the path, but I backed away because I never believed it for a minute, for one thing. And another thing, I figured, I even told Jadharani, it's like a disease. It has to run its course. And I'm talking about what happened right after he left the Grand 11. And so on this particular fateful day, I was up on the rooftop of Krishna Balaram Temple chanting japa at sunrise. And I had been watching I would go on pilgrimage, but I would check in. I would go to the temples. I would stay at temples like in Vrindavan or some other places. But mostly I was doing pilgrimage like a sadhu, with a cheap jute sari. And I went to Kanyakumari all the way up to Gomukh, all over India for like about 10 years, almost 10 years, more than 10 years. every year. And that day, I was up on the roof, and these 4 vultures flying over my head and landed on the unfinished samadhi. Prabhupada's samadhi in Vrindavan was unfinished for about 10 years. There were these bamboo structures that stuck up in the air, and it was like a skeleton. And since Vrindavan is like a microcosm of the whole movement, I saw these vultures scratching and preening on the roof, and I pretty much freaked out. I was like, because I could see that what was going on was a bunch of young guys competing with one another with $50,000 birthday parties. Yes, that's what they were doing. And flying around the world and using up the assets of the mission, which was very wealthy at the time that Prabhupada left. And that was even before anybody knew about the book changes. And so I ran down the stairs and I went over to Bhagaji's house. And I don't know if you know who Bhagaji was, but Bhagaji was Prabhupada's close friend. He donated the land for the Gurukul. He was Prabhupada's very good friend in Vrindavan. He had been initiated by another guru early on, but he was a Gaudiya Vaishnava. And he loved Prabhupada like anything. And he was there. He was there, right? And he spoke Hindi. I probably spoke Bengali too. And so I went to Bhagaji's house, which was right around the corner from Krishna Balaram. And I said, Bhagaji, I know the truth, but I want to hear it from you. I want to know what happened. I want to know if he appointed these guys. And Bhagaji simply said, Govindasi, Prabhupada never appointed anybody. They have simply done this. That's all. But you are a very small fish in a very big pond. You go on with your Krishna consciousness. This is Krishna's movement. He will take care of it in due course of time. So I took that as my instruction from Srila Prabhupada. I felt that he was telling me what I was supposed to do and to be patient. In time, things would change. And of course, they did change very soon after that. Every one of the 9 of the 11 went crashing down in flames. But things haven't gotten that much better because they kind of like multiplied themselves or something. And no, they are not following Prabhupada's instructions in many, many ways, although some of them are really doing some good things, like leading kirtans all over the world, keeping things going. And the thing that I find most disturbing is when I see people criticizing Prabhupada for the way things turned out. I think people need to understand that Prabhupada came to this country and he did the best he could with a band of pirates, literally pirates. I mean, he even told me at times, they say, I have done miracle by converting these Westerners, boys and girls, into Vaishnavism. But then he put his hand on his head and says, but they do not know how much headache it has been. So that's what we have to realize. And I am not negative at all. Hearing all this, you may think that I'm a pessimist. I absolutely know that Lord Chaitanya's movement will go on because he's God and it's his world and it's his plan. But it may take a couple of generations to clean out the sewage, so to speak. And also, Prabhupada often said, and I'm sure you've all heard this, from the children of your children, pure devotees will be coming out. Now, the second generation, our kids, I don't have any kids personally, but I mean generally, they were pretty much destroyed by what happened, most of them. I don't know about your country. I only know about America and probably a little of Europe. But so don't think this wasn't a planned arrangement. See, devotees are good-hearted. We tend to be naive because we think everybody thinks like us. But guess what? They don't. There are real Rakshasas in this world, real demons, and Prabhupada was a great threat. What he taught was a huge threat to the world, to what they planned to do. This plan that you see unfolding in the world right now, there is plenty of proof that it has been, how shall I say it, planned or even constructed many years ago. It's just that now they've got the technology to pull it off, or they think they have the technology to pull it off. Most of the time when I have spoken in the last 2 or 3 years, it's been to encourage devotees to get out of cities and get ready for the collapse. And yet, in spite of that, nobody believes me. So it's kind of difficult to go on harping on the same old thing. But the fact is that Prabhupada predicted all of this. He told us it was coming. He said, get ready.
Mhm.
He used to tell me things. The first year, I was with him from 67 to 69, continuously, except for when he went to India. And he used to talk very freely about the future. And I'm one of these old-fashioned Prabhupada disciples that believes that Prabhupada was Trikaligyan, especially since the Bhagavatam even says that. Although nowadays I go on Facebook and I actually read things where people don't believe this. So what can I say? They can believe the way they want to believe, and I'll believe the way I want to believe. But when Prabhupada would talk in the very early times, he would tell me things about the future. And I always thought that everybody heard the same thing. I only found out in the last maybe 4 years or so that they hadn't, because what happened was that the secretary that took over after I left for Hawaii in 69 was a young man who was a very nice young brahmachari, but he believed in NASA and the moonshot and all that stuff. And so when Prabhupada said you can't go to the moon by spaceship, he left. And so after that, Prabhupada quit talking about a lot of things. I didn't even know that until I guess just a few years ago. And the way I found out is by cross-referencing with different devotees, and they didn't know anything about it. They apparently it was covered, hidden, or lost. I don't know why. And then my closest friend is Kusha Devi, whose husband, Srutakirti, of 26 years, was Prabhupada's servant for maybe 2 or 3 years. And he used to ask Srutakirti, you're not going to leave me, are you? Because I tell you that you can't go to the moon by spaceship. So he remembered that this young man lost faith in Krishna consciousness, lost faith in everything, because Prabhupada spoke heavily about the idiocy of the trying to go to other planets by spaceship. And so a lot of devotees don't really know about some of this stuff. And so I did a couple of videos on Namarasa's show about it and about some of the things he had told me. And then I also found statements that the Vedabase actually had recorded things that he had said and brought those up as well. And even Prabhupada wrote an article in 1956 before he left India, which is a beautiful article because it describes how his perspective, how the materialistic way of life, already there's a plan for ending it. It's called the atomic bomb. So, and it's a very good article. It was in his Back to Godhead in 1956. I encourage you to read it if you can find it. So the stuff that's going on in the world right now is definitely frightening. And it's very unfortunate that the devotees have not awakened to what is going on, and instead they've chosen the woke agenda, essentially. At least the mainstream ISKCON has. But there are a lot of devotees now, especially youngsters, who are questioning a lot. And so in a way, I think that this is a very important time. I think that this is a time when it is time to try to help those who maybe losing their faith as a result of what they're seeing, because it's a very valid, wonderful path. Prabhupada brought the most wonderful information. His books are wonderful. I was just reading Nectar of Devotion today, and I mean, it's marvelous, the stuff that he's telling people, the answers. And it's just we're faced with, we handful of Prabhupada disciples that are remaining on this planet are faced with a huge responsibility. At least that's how I see it, to try to let people know as best we can what's going on. Okay, I said my spiel. Any questions?
Fantastic. Thank you. Brenda is watching and says Hare Krishna. Just for anyone in the stream who's watching right now, you can leave your comments and questions in as a comment on the video post, and we can pull them in here to bring them. But let's go back to our studio panelists to begin with.
There's a couple, I don't want to usurp if you're going to someone else. There's a couple points on which Govinda Dasi said I can just make a few elaborating points. That, as she said, this idea of degrading Prabhupada and trying to become his replacement, it had some history in our Gaudiya Sampradaya, and it happened to Prabhupada prior to he left this planet, and there was a conspiracy on how he left this planet. That's another topic some other time. But we saw that, when no one was appointed. But here's the point I said: Prabhupada actually asked 2 of his disciples to give initiation before he left the planet, because he already knew what was taking place. He asked 2 of them, and both were reluctant to, and then when later on some of their names came up, a particular individual who was very prominent in one of the 11 so-called gurus was objecting them to be gurus. But Prabhupada had named 2 of his disciples, both were Indian bodied, to give initiation prior to Prabhupada leaving the planet. So for most of us in the West and other, we think, this, the whole controversy of what's Guru Tattva and the 11 so-called appointees, this is the discussion. But Prabhupada actually knew there was a, conspiracy going on. And he actually appointed 2 people who did become gurus and were, they were pretty sickened a lot by what they saw as well. Anyway, that's the only thing I wanted to put in there. I know when I first was coming in 1969, I challenged Prabhupada if he was a real guru, and my nature was pretty challenging. I was a student body, president of my 30,000 student university, and we ended up, in California. Reagan called the National Guard on campus. We had, Jane Fonda and Hayden, and we had a whole riots that were going on there, and I threw a lighted trash can into the administration building. So we've been revolutionaries since the 60s. Prabhupada had, he said many people came from the peace love generation, but a lot of my god brothers and god sisters, they were activists. When I traveled, Bhakti Tirtha was from him, and he was an activist black student leader, student union in Princeton, and I was in my university in California. And so Prabhupada had a number of people that he would say that that Krishna's helped place certain people into the movement to help push it forward. He said he's always thanking his God, his spiritual master for that. But the difference is, although Prabhupada, when I first challenged Prabhupada, one of my so-called reasons that he had to prove if he was a guru was to predict the future. So at the first time, he never read the 12th canto the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the other ones, I had 4 reasons, and this was the 4th. So on that one, he called for Pradyumna, and Pradyumna brought this, looks like a 15-inch thick book, just carrying it with both hands. And Prabhupada was one of the where he translated from the major commentaries of all the Vaishnavacharyas on Srimad Bhagavatam. So he turned to the 12th canon and he started reading. People will think, they're very handsome, having long curly hair. Of course, I had long curly hair. And people, and he starts saying there'll be no food, and people will be eating only seeds and nuts. And if they live to be 25 years old, they'd be right old men. The devotees will be hunted like they hunt deer. And he's living all these different things, and everyone in first time here, including myself, and we were all like, there'll be no law. It'll be whoever pays the most money will be it. It had all these different things Prabhupada said, and it was just like dead silence. Okay, and so like Govinda Dasi said, unless he knew you, he probably wouldn't go through those platforms. But I had another scenario when we were on a walk in Atlanta, and personal instructions, which I won't go into. But then he was saying, "See that city over there?" And I was next to him, and I said, "That's Atlanta, Srila Prabhupada." And he said, "Yes." He said, "All the people there, they will all go. They'll be all going to the mountains, into the forests. There'll be only people there." I think he called them the vigilantes, but I think he's like dacoits. And they'll be stealing and raping and whatever. Everyone else will leave. And then I thought I knew something. So yes, it says something like that in the end of the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada said to me, "No, in your lifetime." So I don't think I have too many years left on this planet. So, I'm also living in the hills of West Virginia, moved away from my city thing, Govinda Dasi. So, and we were our own farming and stuff. So there's a lot of people that took what Prabhupada had told us very seriously, so I'm sure there's others even on this call that are living not in a more rural scenario than in the cities, where it's going to become quite hellish as we go forward. That's all I wanted to say. I'll let you go back, Sitapati.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see, Gora, you just put your hand up there. You got something that you wanted to inject into the conversation? You're on mute, Prabhu. You need to unmute your microphone. Down the bottom of the page, it says mute.
Jai Govinda Dasi, congratulations on finding your way here. I'm glad you made it. Obeisances to you. Yes, I have 2 questions for you. I probably have hundreds of questions, but I'll just limit it to 2 for now. One of them is, I don't know, 25, 30, I don't know how many years ago, I remember your memoirs made it online as 1008 Memories of Srila Prabhupada. And I'm wondering, did that initial draft become Sandalwood and Roses, your current book, volume 1 and 2?
Well,
Everything-
some of the memories, some of them did. Some of the memories from that became my book. But the way I was guided to write the book mostly is in a way that's very simple and in story form. And that's because it's easy to read, because nowadays kids don't read. My focus is really the young people, because we're half in our grave, most of us aren't going to be here too much longer. And so my focus was to try to get across important instructions and moods around Srila Prabhupada at that time. And but yeah, many of the 1008 ways to remember Prabhupada, that's still somewhere out there on the internet. People have told me. But my book is a little bit different. It has some of the same stories, but it's a little bit different. But,
do you have a copy of the book that you could hold up to the camera?
Oh, I just got, yes, I do. But I just got a message from New Zealand the day before yesterday or something that they had the books in New Zealand now. It's Wellington, he said. Just a minute, let me get it.
Okay, great. We could even drive down to Wellington and pick one up. Wellington's about 4 hours south of where we live. What's your second question, Gore? I'll write it down here because I want to keep us on track with the.
Yes.
They said
we'll do
I
that in a
got an
second.
email from somebody named Vilas and Malini, and they are in Wellington, New Zealand, and they had gotten the books from Cebu. From I can do is I can send you. I can send you the email, and then you can contact them maybe.
Fantastic, thank you.
Because there's Krishna store is in New Zealand, or is it in Australia? It's in Australia.
It's in Australia, which is it's a different country from New Zealand. It's kind of like Canada and
I'm aware of that.
America.
I'm not that dumb.
Except there.
I
know. I'm joking. I love to joke about that. It's a New Zealand thing where people mistake New Zealand as part of Australia. Yeah.
No. I know that it's separate. Actually, we had, before ever meeting Prabhupada, we had planned to move to New Zealand. And my girlfriend Kosharupa, whose husband is Badahari, she was always talking about moving to New Zealand. But now I don't think New Zealand is a good choice with what's going on in the world. I'm just amazed that you guys have survived this, because obviously New Zealand and Australia are the pilot places for doing it all first. You know,
it is. We moved back here though because it's unlikely to be a nuclear target, which we can talk about a little bit. Also, a place of sandalwood and roses.
Nuclear target? Huh?
New Zealand, yeah, we're probably not going to get nuked here.
Oh, well, I don't expect to be here but a couple of more years myself. I'm 77, and I have a very short tour of duty. So I'm actually just trying to finish my memoirs. And I'm also, here's the book anyway. I don't know how to get it out there. I'm actually trying to finish the memoirs because I feel that's my duty. And I also inherited from my mother 160 acres of land here. And I would like to make a community, but so far the right people haven't come forward to do that. I do have a young man up in Arkansas. I have 20 acres of land up in Arkansas, 1,800 feet above sea level up in the mountains. And, it's kind of like a bug out place, you might say. And there is a youngster there who has been around the movement for about 10 years. There's a lot of youngsters that are like, they don't take initiation, but they love to read Prabhupada's books. They like the original books. There's a whole contingency of that type of devotees right now. And so I want to create something here, but I'm not into doing management or an expansion. That's all I can do to just write these books, which, and I'm working on book 2 right now. So that's where I'm coming from. I would like to think that things will get better within my lifetime, but I don't know that they will. Probably.
Okay.
But with Sitapati, there's hope.
I've got 3 questions here. One from Chris Briscoe, one from Gora, and one from me. So I'd like to just I'll give the questions, and then maybe we can figure out how we tackle them. So I'm going to give my question first because it's most closely related. Oh, Muchkunda has some as well. So drop. Okay, let's do this. We'll go over the questions, and then we'll figure out how we're going to structure this next part. So my question or area for discussion is based on, I saw you on Namarasa's podcast, and you said, we didn't do what Prabhupada said about preparing the farms and having it ready. And so there was kind of a sense that I got from it. Don't know whether it was what you wanted to communicate, that it's too late, we missed the boat. And what I was left with was like, we have this farm here, Nurturing Soul, this farming community in New Zealand, and all the farms exist, they're out there, and Krishna can just give them to us. There are people who are out there with this land, and they're like, I want to do something, I don't know what to do with it. And so my thing there was like, the actual problem is not that we don't have the farms, it's that we don't know what to do with them. And just listening to you speak now, I hear it again. It's like the land is there. And in the instances where we do have the land, the thing we're struggling with is getting the people to come and then organizing them and being effective in dealing with the farm when we get it. So that's the first question. I don't want us to jump into it just yet. I just want to put that out there. The next one is from Gora. So Gora, I'll get you to create it, and then we'll come back and deal with everything. It's about the book changes, Gora's one.
Would you like me to speak it?
Please do, Prabhu.
Okay, yeah. So one of the topics of today's talk is the book changes. And so back in 1992, when I was serving at the Krishna House for 6 months, I would go to Alachua from time to time. And I was hearing that Jai Swami had worked. I was working on some book edits. So I went to visit his trailer there. And he gave me, I can't remember if it was 5 or 10 typed 8x10 sheets stapled together, showing me some of the edits that he was working on. And at that time, and even today, they made sense to me. For example, like the sea journey instead of the sea churning. Devotees allegedly did not understand the 8th canto pastime, or Prabhupada maybe had not talked about it yet. There was reference to cattle raising, the planet of the trees, and even a paragraph that belonged to another purport. So on the basis of that, those edits seemed very reasonable to me. So my question for Govinda Dasi is, how much personal correspondence did she have with Jai Swami or Dravida Prabhu regarding her concerns for the book edits? And if so, what were some of the highlights of that? And does Govinda Dasi agree that some essential edits, in our last talk, Garuda Prabhu said he believed about 15% of the edits that were done were essential. I'd like to let her speak on that, please.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we're getting a preview of the upcoming section of the show. If you're a viewer, you're watching in the stream, you can drop your comments and questions into comments on the video, and we'll also bring them in. So, hey, Garuda Prabhu says, good to see this happening right now. And he sends his pranams to Mahabuddhi ji and Srimati Govinda Dasi. It's from Garuda Das Kaviraj Prabhu.
Haribol, Garuda. Our Guru Sisula Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. So next one is from Chris Briscoe. And Chris had to leave to pick up his wife. But he wanted to leave his question here. So here it is. Chris says, Srila Prabhupada's books and messages are profound. How to relate to God and serve him explained brilliantly. Because of this, it seems to me there is a temptation for devotees to say that all problems are solved by this knowledge by default. However, I'm not sure this is true. For example, how to repair a car, one goes to a mechanic. So I think regarding the situation in the world, it's best to go to someone who has researched this. So surely this is the best path to those who wish to be aware. So we'll checkpoint that one as well. And if I was to summarize that, I think, and this is Chris's focus, is where are there people out there in the world who are saying things that are in line with what Srila Prabhupada said about what was going to happen? We might call them the conspiracy theory people out there. And where's the overlap between what Srila Prabhupada said? And for the fourth set of questions, over to Machakunda Prabhu.
Okay. Yeah, so if there is some kind of conspiracy within the movement that and I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, just like, you know, the whoever the global elites are pulling the strings, they use the tactic of divide and conquer and like weaken the men. Like the things that they're doing, you can see it really clear in ISKCON. It's quite obvious that the same tactics are used to like weaken the congregation and keep them small. And I'm like, do they want us to become, like we were hearing before, Prabhupada wanted everyone to become, I can't remember what the word was, but Prabhupada was like, he wanted everyone to become just like him. Someone said, Prabhupada, you're so great. He said, you become like me. So I'm like, all right, there's a conspiracy in ISKCON. What to do then? Because we have to be in parampara. We are supposed to get initiated into this chain of disciplic succession. So that's kind of my question.
So what? Sorry, can you just create that question again?
Yeah. So if there's a conspiracy, how are you going to become a pure devotee? Because you know, you have to get initiated, and a lot of devotees don't want to get initiated because they're aware of a conspiracy in ISKCON. Just like Govinda Dasi was saying, like there's this whole contingency, this whole community of young people who don't want to get initiated.
Okay, so maybe I can make it just more practical and on the court. We're out here preaching to people. We went to the Parliament protest in Wellington, and there's a lot of people who are like awake to what's happening in the world, and we're like, we're going to add Krishna consciousness to this. And now we're like, what do we do now? Because as preachers of Krishna consciousness out in the world, it's like, I'm going to bring them to ISKCON, and then they're going to be like in this thing where they're like pro-vaccination, pro-division, pro-mandates, you know, pro-UN, like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Of course they went to the moon, or don't talk about it, that kind of thing. Does that capture what you're saying there, Muchakunda?
Yeah, it's great. It's, you know, that's the kind of New Zealand version, but it seems to be a global thing. All of these, young people coming who are, you know, in this truth movement, this freedom movement, they're very favorable to Krishna consciousness. But then, like you're saying, ISKCON is like pro-vax and stuff. It's like now not attractive. The countercultural movement was attracted to Prabhupada because he was switched on in all the ways that they were a leadership.
Yeah, not only is the government cheating, but they faked the moon landing. It's like, boom, like, I'm in. This is like
100%.
way more
and
extreme.
Not,
you know,
it's
the
not
kind
that
of thing
anymore.
Mahabuddhi could be like, this guy is hardcore. Like, I'm hardcore, but this guy is next level hardcore. Yeah, and that's kind of missing. I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Couple of comments from the viewers. Robert John Oscroft, who we met at the Parliament protests, and who leads Kirtan down in Whanganui. He's out gardening, listening to the conversation. He's loving it. He says, God bless. And he also mentions that there's infiltration on the Christian church too, big time. Still, many freedom people see themselves as Christian. So we got 4 questions here. How do we want to deal with this? So the first one was mine about the farms. The second one was Gora Prabhu's about the book changes. The third one was Chris Briscoe about conspiracy theorists outside ISKCON and the overlap. And then the fourth one is Much Kunda's about the conspiracy inside ISKCON. How would you like to tackle these? Govinda Dasi,
You're asking me? You're asking
which
me?
Which one do you want to do first? Yeah. Do you have a preference?
I didn't understand your question, Sitapati. Can you condense it, please?
Sure, let's start from there. In your Namras podcast, you said, you know, ISKCON has missed the boat because we didn't create the farms. We didn't get the farms and create them like Prabhupada told us. And
yeah,
let's just check on that. Let's just check on that point first. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So my question is this: is like, the farms are out there, and people just show up and give them to us. And in the cases where they do that, the problem that we then face is, now what? What do we do with this farm? Like, you're a perfect example of it now, because you just got 160 acres, right? And you're like, now the
Yeah.
problem is not that we don't have the farm. The problem is that when we get the farm, what do we do with it, and how do we get people to come here? So I just want to check in with you. Like, what are your thoughts and realizations about that?
Well, I'm not saying that we totally missed the boat. I obviously am. I did the podcast to try to encourage people to get out of the cities and get something going. But it is a problem because I myself am really not inclined to be a manager. And I wasn't raised on a farm either. I was raised in a small town. So I'm at a disadvantage. I don't know how to answer the question other than because a lot of people there are devotees, there are old Prabhupada devotees out there. Like Mahabuddhi mentioned, he's living in a rural area. There's a lot of them out there, but they're not really that affiliated with ISKCON, because most of the farms were put on the back burners, ignored. And the reason for that was because there was no money from that, but there was money to be made in the cities. I can tell you very clearly that was the reason. So many of the farms were either sold or neglected, even the cows and so forth. So now what you have is you do have a lot of, there are little farming communities. There's a couple of devotees that have podcasts every week here in America. And there are some farms scattered here and there, but nothing like what Prabhupada wanted. He wanted us to really be, he wanted us to be ready to accept people who had come, who had no jobs and needed food. That's what he wanted. Well, that's not going to happen, most likely, because we're not prepared. But I mean, you're right. We don't know how to do it. I mean, we have to find the right people. There are a lot of young people. Like when you had the Gora had that program up in Canada about, and Tapapunja was speaking. I've had several talks with him, and he has woofers, which are young people who want to live on a farm, and they come there to work on a farm for a while, and then a lot of them become devotees. But these programs just, the leaders in ISKCONs don't seem to be interested. I think other countries like New Zealand, maybe Australia, I know there's farms in Europe, much more so than America. Maybe in America there are farms, but they're just like individuals scattered throughout the nation. What to do? I don't know how to answer that question. I really don't. I mean, I keep hoping the right person will show up and want to do this farm here, and maybe it'll happen, but I don't know. Sitapati, if you have
Okay.
people donating farms to you, then you need
Yeah.
to find somebody who
So-
knows how to run a farm. I do have a guy up in a 30-year-old
Oh.
up in Arkansas, and he is was
Are we
raised
allowed
on a farm, youngster, and he is putting in gardens and putting in fruit trees, and it's only 20 acres, but that's something, and it has the virtue of being in the mountains, because Prabhupada did say they would flee to the hills, and also being adjoining the Ozark National Forest, which is a vast tract of land. So I put it this way, I'm doing what little bit I can, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. And maybe, like
fantastic.
Padma often says, that well, when the cities start collapsing, that's when the devotees are going to wise up and head for the farms. Maybe that will happen. I don't know. According to Prabhupada, it's going to happen. I mean, he told Mahabuddhi
In that case, it's going to happen.
People are going to flee. Yeah, right, exactly. We don't know when. I personally take everything with a grain of salt that's out there online, because I know that there's stuff coming from both sides. I take very seriously what Prabhupada said, and also for the timing, what my astrologer friends in Bulgaria, they've been very, very accurate all along. They predicted the election not going through, all kinds of things. I've known them I've known Petita Pavana since he was initiated in 1968, and he was a good astrologer then. So for timing, I look to those guys. And for the truth of what's going to happen and what we should do, I look to what Prabhupada basically said, because the demons have their plans. We all know about that. There's plenty out there. You can go online and find lots of stuff. But if things aren't going to turn out like they plan, that's a guarantee. They're not, how far they will get, I don't know. But they're not going to end up like they have it planned. And our job is to keep on, like Sitapati, chanting Hare Krishna, because that's like kryptonite. You know, you guys probably knew Superman comics as a child or something, or maybe you didn't if you grew up as a devotee, but I didn't. And there's something called kryptonite, and it's just like that would weaken. And the holy name weakens the Rakshasas. And so that's why they shut down churches, they shut down temples. They prevented, in some places in America, more than 5 people couldn't enter into a temple at once. And if they went in, they had to wear all these masks and all kinds of stuff on their faces. So they know what they're doing. This is not an accident. They know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to stop worship, because even the Christians say that when more than one person are gathered together praising God, it generates spiritual energy. And so when we have kirtan, it generates fantastic spiritual energy. And that spiritual sound, Prabhupada said, keeps going around the globe. It doesn't stop. It generates a continuous stream. And so the more kirtan, the better. That's the actual remedy for this age. And the fact that our leaders have been duped or hired, or however, for whatever reason, they chose not to continue the Harinams, that's very unfortunate. And it will have repercussions. But for us, we have to try to reach more and more devotees. And right now, I think what's going on since the last 2 eclipses, pardon my astrology here, but eclipses do affect the events on the Earth planet. And Lord Chaitanya appeared during an eclipse and had everybody in the Ganges chanting Hare Krishna, remember? And Prabhupada talks about that in his book. And so since these last 2 eclipses, you see all of this bilge, all this sewage is coming out. There's a huge purification going on. Whistleblowers coming forward with all of these things, not only in the material, in the Karmi world, but in ISKCON, all of these molestation cases are coming forward now. There's lawsuits going on. It's like, this is a big purification. And I think, personally, my perspective, whether I'm right or not, is that now is the time for Prabhupada's disciples to step in and try to help these confused, disenchanted, disillusioned young devotees who are losing faith in the whole movement because of the decisions the leaders have made. That's my perspective. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that is my perspective.
Okay, got it. Looks like Mahabuddhi Prabhu, did you have something you wanted to add on to that?
Well, I could say a lot of things. I don't know how much we're allowed to participate. So there's a couple things. And I live close to Tapapunj, who's been trying for a long time to train people in farming, does a good job of students and stuff like that. ISKCON won't take him serious. Even though he's done gardening and stuff and helping the devotees up there in the New Vrindavan area, they don't want to have anything to do with it. So here's the thing. I think what I've been listening to is a little strange in the sense that we're taking, well, ISKCON's not going to accept. Well, I don't really care if they accept or not. They're not my leaders. If they're your leaders, then I guess you really I still don't feel I'm indebted to my god brothers who are usurping Prabhupada's position, whether it be his books or whether his instructions or whatever. So I think it's an individual decision that if you're intelligent enough, it's either farm or die. I mean, basically speaking, you have to, like I have 25 acres here. I went through I've managed hospitals for 30 years, $1 billion and millions of dollars and thousands of people. And I've never been a farmer, but I said, enough's enough. I moved out from the cities out to a place. I think it has to be an individual decision, whether or not you're looking for a community or that you're just going to start something and do it. So we built a second place. I got grants from the government to build, these high tunnels, and up where I'm at, there's a winter, so you can grow all year round. You can, turn some of your lawns and this stuff into gardening, growing stuff, and families doing that. My son's been trained now as in farming, and part of the resistance to this whole new world order and this whole mass transformation that the ISKCON society seems to be going through or infatuated with is just to resist. And what's part of that resistance? Grow your own food, live differently, and don't accept the mandates, whether they're the clot shots or whether these crazy things that are going on, and that we don't have to accept. We've been given these instructions from Prabhupada. We've been given these instructions from also our whole Guru Varga. If anyone's read any, the coming down all the way down through our disciplic line, they've spent their blood in trying to give us the instructions of how to live and how to act, how to develop Krishna consciousness, whether it's individually or collectively. So I think collectively trying to do things in the ISKCON's a lost cause. Part of it is money, part of it is power, part of it is like, they don't really want Prabhupada's disciples. I mean, we have some, so-called gurus that tells their presidents and stuff like, don't let any Prabhupada's disciples managers, because they're older than you, they'll know something, they'll just, you won't be able to get anything done. And so like you can go through leadership and they'll have the newest people, they'll have people that Bhakta's running. So, I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff that's happening. So I think individually, people have to make a decision. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to follow a bunch of persons who are like, who have disrupted Prabhupada's teaching? I mean, there's good souls. Not everyone has to be, thrown into the blanket kind of I'm doing, but collectively, it's not been very good. So you have to make the decision. You're going to follow that? Or are you going to follow Prabhupada's instructions? Are you going to follow our Varga's instructions? Are you going to resist from, this is a fight between good and evil. It's, this is, for a Kshatriya, this is a real time, in the sense that, people are agreeing to demoniac principles. I mean, it's crazy. And this is happening from, quote, so-called leaders. So I don't accept those leaders. I don't accept their instructions. They don't really have any meaning in my life. I've accepted Prabhupada's instructions. I've accepted my Shiksha Guru's instructions. I've concentrated on our own devotional practice and services. And I preach where I can every night, five nights a week, and to reading the scriptures with others. And, I think Krishna consciousness, you have to look at what your sadhana is and to the goal to sadhya, and you have to have the association of elevated people. Otherwise, you're not going to, if you're just staying as a kanishta, then you're going to be more concerned, what's happening. And in society, how do we affect society? We're not in a role where we can affect society. I mean, I've graduated in administration. I've managed huge, thousands of people, lots of money, but we're not in a position that we're going to be, leading America in, government structures. No one has any very much little experience and stuff like. So the best thing we do is our own collective. those that have believed the same, that can live together, that can work together, that have some affinity and a friendship with each other, and have and same belief, and not falling prey to these, crazy dictations and edicts that are coming down that have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. In fact, they are opposite. And what to speak of those that are following this new world order craziness that's really, you'll be happy, they'll round you into 15-minute cities, and you'll take everything away, and you'll be these demoniac trends. This is real. It's not like it's some conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy. It's real. And so if anyone has a belief in good and evil, my God, this is the time. But you're powerless if you're looking to fix a society that's so far broken you can't repair it unless Krishna decides he's going to do it himself. So to me, it sounds like we're hoping that within ISKCON they're going to make a change. And I just, like I said earlier, and I just listened to the Shingananda, who's been very involved in those things. He said that's impossible. They don't want to listen. So why would you accept that? Work individuals with some friends, if you can do it. Set up your own house. If it's your own house, you don't have other people next to you. Show by your example. And by their example, things will happen. I got grants from the government. I go see county commissioners, and I go, I know how to do those things. Being management for years and years and years, how to engage. I've been telling presidents, that's how people come, you know how to engage them. And one of your discussions, what I listened to, I don't know, last week or earlier this week, how about the Varnashram system. So even for the Varnas, how did you engage? And I watched how Prabhupada did. He put people that had inclination toward the work they did, and then the work they had to do, if it was just collective, had everyone collective, and gradually in the course of time, the inclinations for that individual will become to be sown. So if you're a manager, you'll get to see this guy's not going to be happy doing this, but he's more happier doing that. So it's practical. Everything has to be practical, and it has to be run shastrically. Not that some guy has his own whim and he's presenting some edict because he's some pure devotee or something. But this is coming down from a long strands of our parampara, and without any fail. So we can take shelter in what was written from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by Bhakti Pragyan Keshava, by Bhakti Siddhanta, by Srila Prabhupada, by others in our Gautam. They're not so confused as the leadership that I guess you're currently seeing and trying to fix within the society. I don't think there's any hope in it. So I'm just coming right back out and saying it. Someone wants to challenge that, oh, yes, there's great hope. We can all come and we're going to make a revolution. And all these people who've been appointed for life are going to resign, and they're going to, new group come in. This is like pie in the sky, folks. So if you're a devotee and if you're Prabhupada's disciple or following Prabhupada, then you need to follow it, and you have to accept those things favorable and reject those things unfavorable. Right now, that type of leadership is unfavorable. So if it means you have to be Krishna consciousness, I remember Prabhupada saying to me that, if you're the only person, that you have to be Krishna conscious, not that you're dependent on what everyone else does. So we're going to be judged in how we follow, how we preach, how we live our lives, how we're exemplary of our Guru Varga, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Gauravani, and that we ourselves make the determination that we want to, reach that sadhya, that goal. So and if we don't do that, then we're not only cheating ourselves, we'll be cheating others. So a real leader has to be able to speak the truth and live the truth. And if they're not doing that, they're not really leaders. And if they're not following their instructions of their guru, then how are they our leaders or my leaders or your leaders? They're not. But if you accept them in that, well, then you're foolish. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Guru. Hare Krishna. I actually would like to challenge that. But before I do that, I want to, well, first of all, thank you for creating that. That's extremely important. I want to bring in this comment from Rahul here. He says, charity begins at home. The idea that Srila Prabhupada's movement can only be accessed within the confines of selected brick and mortar geographic locations is a trap. The movement lives inside each and every one of us. which I think nicely kind of summarizes what you're creating. It's like radical responsibility. There's one thing that I'd like to challenge about it, though, just in the interest of keeping things interesting here.
So, Mayor Govinda, what are you talking to, Sitapati? When you say challenging, me or Govinda Dasi statement, I don't know.
I'm challenging you, Prabhu, what you're saying.
Okay.
I'm just going to challenge one premise that you introduced there, and that is that we're waiting for like the leaders, the leaders, to do something. And I get that we're speaking to multiple audiences here, and who you just spoke to then is all these devotees sitting inside ISKCON who have the sense that something is wrong, and like, is someone going to do something about this? And they're seeing that the leaders there are not doing anything about it. And it's like, yeah, you're going to have to, is someone going to do something about it? You're going to have to do something about it. You are the leader. Do it. Not waiting for these people who are clearly, I don't want to challenge it. I want to ask you this question, Prabhu, and to Govinda Dasi as well. This is the
I haven't heard the challenge you said, so I'm waiting for the challenge.
Yeah, okay. You want to challenge? You're a Kshatriya. Okay, I'm going to challenge you. Listen, ain't nobody on this call sitting around waiting for these guys to do something. The issue that we're now having, we're post ISKCON corrupt leadership. We're like, we got the instructions. Who was it said? In the absence of orders, head for the sound of the guns, We're like, okay, it's Prabhupada said, get the farms and do the thing. So now we're like, we got the farms, and now we're having trouble doing the thing. We're not waiting for them to do the thing, but like in the instances where we do have these farms, now the problem we have is, what do we do now? Like, like Govinda Dasi said, I've been an urban preacher my whole life, for like 20, 30 years, lived in the city for the whole 50 years of my life. I'm now living out in the country with like cows and chickens and stuff. And I'm like, what am I even doing? So now it's like a different problem space.
So what was the challenging question? What to do now? Is that what you're saying?
The problem
is
we're not waiting for these leaders to do something. We're past that now. We're doing it, and now we've got a whole different set of problems.
You are, and some of the listeners in this on this conference and in the conference here, they're not waiting. I'm not really addressing them, but I mean, there's so many people are. I just went to, a program close to me, and everyone's waiting for some, magic person. It's like waiting for Jesus to appear or something, and and for the GBC to make some edict. And I said, you're being treated as employees. You're only given this thing. You don't have any, but everyone's agreeing to it. So that sort of this mass transformation, which is like the idea of psychotic following leadership that isn't really leadership, but they're frightened to break out of either their intelligence or for critical thinking, or just, I don't want to be singled out because I'll lose my job, I'll lose my money, I'll lose my house, I lose everything. So then what happens is that they don't speak out. So I say the majority of people are like that, not the minority. I mean, we're lucky to get 30% of the 100% of people, that high of the people that are resisting. Now, in that part, let's go back to your other question. People can gravitate around people who will speak the truth, but you have to also have a plan. So in other words, okay, I've never been a farmer either. Talk about urban. I've been running hospitals and organizations and communities and all those kinds of things before, as well as temples and so much stuff. So, I've had to learn. I don't know what the 30-day crop was. Now we're putting up high tunnels, and we're putting up rotating crops. And this is just in our own family. What to speak of now as others. Tapa Punj has been, for instance, like preaching and preaching and preaching and preaching, trying to do within the society, and they're not listening to him. Even though, at the point of starvation, so I said, you can't do this in a society that's not, that doesn't have any value in that. So if you see these things are hitting, you believe what Prabhupada said, then you've made the change and someone's making the change. So the next thing is you don't wait for people to come, just learn it yourself, do your own working and communicate with others. And gradually, like, even what I'll do, so look, here's what I've got. And if you people are interested, they'll contact me. Well, I have guest houses. We've got things, and if people that are interested in what you're doing or what I'm doing or someone else is doing, gradually they'll come, and gradually there'll be a federation like you're having this meeting now. Gradually there'll be people that, hey, why don't we just cooperate? Because, I get along with this one, he gets along, what is he doing? And then the communication starts, and gradually Krishna consciousness will start, because the devotees are, essentially, devas. They want to help, they want to encourage, they want to be able to serve God. So the first thing is
Yes.
like, get your house in order on your own spiritual life. And by doing that, then Krishna will send the people. If we're not ready for the people to come, then it's like, previous, I think, Govinda, I said, Ben Prabhupada said, here in the New Vrindavan area, there's thousands and thousands of people come. Like, I think if 4 people came, they would be really problematic for him right now. So the question is like, okay, what are you going to do? Wait for someone to do it? You're not. I'm not. Govinda Dasi's not. Probably many listeners on this are not, but they're not all connected, because everyone's waiting for a society to sit. So if we're saying, oh, we're not waiting for society, then communicate with those that have the same opinions, the same viewpoints. Friendship, have to work and also do the same kinds of things that you'd find in a rural scenario, just like you see in the Amish, and you'll see in the Mormons, and you see others. They don't even necessarily have big communities. They live close to each other and they help each other. So I saw a house being built by the Amish, a couple houses down, a couple, farms and stuff down. They built a house oh my God, must be like almost 2 weeks. The whole thing was done. They had 5 guys, and everyone knew what they were doing. Boom, and put it up, and that was it. So, I mean, we don't have that kind of cooperation. We've been dealt a kind of an impersonal hand. So everyone's got some friends, everyone's got some followers. The question is, if they're not interested in coming, or they don't know what they need, or they're fearful, they'll join when the time comes. 60% of people like that will join when everything becomes, oh yeah, it's good, everyone accepts it. Then they'll want to come, or by hardships. And I think a lot of things we're going to see, those people living in the cities, when they lose their jobs and when they lose their homes and there's no food and there's scarcity and stuff like that, Prabhupada told me they'll come by the thousands looking for food, for shelter, for camaraderie, and for protection. So if we can offer those activities collectively, individually, then we have an opportunity to get past this, because things will get really bad. So I'm not just talking to the few people on the phone here, but whoever's listening, this is part of Prabhupada's, as Govinda Dasi said, and has said to me and several others, this is part of Prabhupada's prophecy, shall we say, that following the Srimad Bhagavatam, things are going to get more difficult in the age of Kali. There's a little spacer here for devotees, but ultimately, in the end, devotees will be hunted like deer. It says that in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada had said that. So whether we want to take his words or we want to, we don't want to, that's an individual discussion. If we want to, if we don't pay attention to our own Krishna consciousness and we just become critics, that's not going to help anyone either. So we have to be a positive, and how to be positive? We have to also be spiritually enlightened, which means we have to be able to sincerely chant our rounds. We have to be able to hear constantly from the words from a pure devotee. We have to be able to read and study. We have to associate. And, for our work basically comes down to, if it's changing from managing, 1,000, 1,500 people in a hospital to how to run a little farm yard, sometimes that seems even harder, because I didn't have that. That's a different application of management, but it's learning, and by doing it, you learn it. So I think if we, I may not live long enough to see, all these different changes and stuff. And some of us are, Govinda Dasi and us are coming up, long in the beard and tooth, right? So the question is, we may not see the end result what takes place, but we certainly have to be part of it. And, as a proper disciple, who's not, attached to the regime that's out there currently so-called representing him, that we are obligated to tell the truth and to, not worry about what other people think and do the right thing. I mean, the Prabhupada told me to preach boldly and preach the truth. He's even my Shiksha Guru said, whatever you speak, he said, it'll greatly benefit other people and also benefit yourself. So all we can do is be true to ourselves and be true to the words of our spiritual masters and try our best. And if we try our best, why wouldn't Krishna help you? I mean, that's the other thing. Why would not Krishna help you if you're trying to propagate his movement and do the best that you can? And you're praying every day to the deities, and somehow or other, will he not help you? I mean, then that means there's a blockage there in the spiritual part, between the heart and the realization of Krishna consciousness. Because as one becomes developed in Krishna consciousness, then that internal information, as what's Prabhupada told me, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, will also increase. There's a personal relationship between the spiritual master and also Radha and Krishna. So, part of that is to become aware of it, and respond with it and keep Prabhupada, not as just one of the 10 million gurus, but as he's a major part within our lives. And as he's not an ordinary person, he's not a material personality, So if we don't offend Prabhupada and put him in the platform where he really belongs, and then we have a platform, then we have an opportunity of preaching on his behalf. We can become empowered. But if we succumb to that, what are we going to preach? That, so-and-so Swami or this one, that. There's a disciplic line, and there's a disciplic line after Prabhupada left also, that that Krishna always has devotees on this planet helping. So at some point in time, we have to break out of our little compartment of Krishna consciousness is only done by ISKCON, and bring it out to there's devotees all over the planet in different sanghas and different movements, and at the same time there are Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And so if we're just looking so sectarian as just everything is ISKCON, or only people that believe in Prabhupada is just these people right here, well, then we're going to hurt ourselves too, because our association will become limited. Hare Krishna.
Powerful stuff. Thank you, Prabhu. We're coming up to the 2-hour mark, or we just passed it actually. So I don't think we're going to be able to get through all of the questions. So I'm going to checkpoint the conspiracy theorists outside ISKCON and the conspiracy inside ISKCON for a future conspiracy-focused episode.
We can invite them next week if they would like to be continuing this conversation for next week.
Yep. The other thing is, we're going to bring Tapapunja on. We're definitely going to get Tapapunja on. That's what I can hear out of this, is Tapapunja's leadership is needed in this area. It's his time. And so I would like to do the book changes question from Gaura Prabhu. Govinda Dasi, you've got your hand up?
Yeah. I think that what he said is very important. And I think that at this time in history, we need to get organized. Those of us who don't believe in the structure, or we understand that the structure has been somehow completely corrupted, I think that we need to make an effort while we still have communication like this, we need to make an effort to get a little bit organized, because each of us has different talents and abilities. Like Mahabuddhi was talking about the things that he can do. My gosh, I couldn't do those things. And maybe there's things I can do he can't do, like that. So those of us who And I think Sitapati, what you're doing by having these meetings, these podcasts, it's a good beginning, because there are many devotees who are searching, and some of them are in ISKCON and many of them are not, but some of them go to ISKCON temples because obviously that's where they found out about Krishna. And I really feel that it's our duty as senior Prabhupada disciples to somehow lead them back to the understanding of Srila Prabhupada, who he is and what he wanted of us. To me, that's kind of the root of the whole misunderstanding, or maybe it's not a misunderstanding, maybe it's a conspiracy. Whatever has gone wrong is due to that essential issue, and that is minimizing Srila Prabhupada. When before he left, he told Rupanuga, "Don't make me small." What has happened is these leaders have made him small, and essentially they have lost the train. They've lost the mercy by the stuff that they've done. And Krishna will correct things in due course of time, just like Bhagaji said. But we do have a duty to try to reach those innocents, those who are innocent, and however we can. And so I think an effort should be made by those of you who are techie, like it was such a great help what Pradyumna did when he put up the global scam and Krishna's plan. Those of you who are capable of putting together an organization, I think that we do need to unite, even if we're not in the same country. We need to be able to inspire one another and get ideas and try to help one another and reach out to those who are still in ISKCON and who are completely blindsided right now by what's happening in Mayapur. They're losing faith right and left. I've seen many youngsters denounce their guru for telling them to take the clot shot. So this is a part of the change that Krishna is making, and we do have some roles to play, and that's kind of how I see it. Anyway.
Thank you. Did you want to say something?
Yeah. Mother Govinda, you were mentioning that you know yourself there are many devotees that have their own farms and they are scattered. I think we need to look into the solutions now. Do you think you can connect us to them and they can actually come in the podcast and they can see what they're doing and what is the purpose of what they're doing? And then this can be a call out to the people out there that are listening now, young people that are losing faith in what's going on right now. Then they can pick the places to go and do the service. And also, I will encourage all of these devotees that already have a place, the farm, to have a system how they want the things to happen, what kind of service are available according to personalities and so on. So these people can basically just tick the boxes and say, I want to be there. And definitely there are many young people there that want to connect with the Krishna conscious world. And this is the time to do it. Now, the other thing I was looking at, Prabhu, Mahabuddhi, Prabhu, and Mother Govinda, you were mentioning about all of what is happening, what we need to do. Srila Prabhupada was very clear on what he wants to happen. Create the farms, people will come, so and so. Also, we need the grihastras, like getting together all the grihastras, vaishyas, very staunch grihastra families that want to support this kind of work for these people coming. Also connecting, if you guys know any of those grihastras and vaishyas that want to do this one, then we can connect them so they can maybe donate according to what we're creating. So it's all transparent, what they want, how they want to serve. then we can get them in the places, in the areas they want to support, because it's very important, because this is also service. This is a way we have to get things going rather than just talking, speculating, and waiting, because no one will do anything unless each of us put the effort to do it. So we have to do it now. Now, the other thing you mentioned, that the young mother, Govinda Dasi, you mentioned about young disillusioned devotees, young devotees that are going and they're seeing all of this corruption in the GBC. And not what to speak right now, you see someone so famous and they're really good at doing kirtans. They have so many disciples and they're really good charming, excellent charmers. But behind the curtains, what happened is they are so good friends, best friends, and they're covering up all of these swamis are being rapists of these young children, good, cool devotees. And seeing that, of course, who wants to be the follower of Krishna consciousness? Because I would be myself, that's actually what I disillusioned myself, a personal experience that I have. Before becoming a Krishna conscious person, I was in the Christian group. And what took me out of this church was the pastor was involved with the wife of one of the disciples, we can call. He was having an affair. Both parties had their own children, and the pastor's wife committed suicide. The daughters had been left in such a horrible situation. So we can see, I've been disillusioned at a young age, which I was 15. I observed that one and I said, I don't want to be involved with these religious groups because they are horrible, they're hypocritical. I do not. And I can see many devotees now in this world, young devotees, seeing this. Swamis nicely dressed up in the saffron committing such a horrendous act towards children. And the other Swamis being best friends, covering up, not calling out. Also, other Swamis pretending to be so high up, intelligent, doing the book changes, and these people knowing about it, helping in minimizing Srila Prabhupada's work. So we can see it is a whole clump of the same clowns. So there is no faith anymore. So for this young disillusion and sad devotees now, the youngsters, we need to create a group. How to serve them and how to position them in different areas. Perhaps, Mother, we can create a group for this, a podcast, and especially for them, and create a system what we can do about this, because it's awful to see them, because they're going to go into the material world. Maya is so powerful. It's best for them to go back to where they were before than come into an organization that basically is worse than in the material world, And the other thing for the devotees that are blindly following all of these swamis, knowing what's happening, they're still going. It's basically they have some disassociation personality disorder. They know what's happening, but no, I don't want to look at it. And for the devotees that they don't want to do anything about it, that's the inertia in them. You must do something for your own sake. Nobody will bring anything on your doorstep and say, excuse me, ma'am, or sir, this is your palanquin for you to have your high life. It doesn't work that way. The reality in this material world is you take the step, be disciplined, connect with devotees that are in that world of doing something, and then you will get that inspiration by doing things. And for Mahabuddhi Prabhu, I think you're a great example to go and fight and keep doing things. And we need these young devotees to get in connection with you, what we do, how we do things now. Because if you stay one more year waiting for this, things is not going to get better. And your self-esteem is going to go worse and worse and worse. Depression comes, drinking habits will come, smoking habits will come, drug addiction will come. What else? I don't know what else will come. But it's on you and it's up to you to get up now and connect with all of these devotees that are coming forward and they're ready to help you in every way possible they can, because you are direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada. I admire your loyalty to him. And this is kind of like our resource to connect with you. And the inspiration, because you carry in the essence of what Srila Prabhupada wanted. And we need you right now. We do really need you, because we want them. We want you to come. What Srila Prabhupada wanted, this is the force what we need. We don't need this diluted stuff, fame, prestige, devotees looking for that. We don't. We need the truth. We need the essence of what Srila Prabhupada and what Krishna wants for us. Thank you. That's all what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That is I mean, you said everything I wish I could have said it so forcefully, because that is really what I think, that we really do have to band together and try to help those kids. There's so many really nice devotees that are beginners, and it's our duty, but most of us are getting old, and we're not going to be here that much longer. So we need you, and I guess you sort of need us too.
You, we do. You have the wisdom, you have the direct experience of Srila Prabhupada. Please transfer that to us so we can carry the same essence what you guys carry from Srila Prabhupada.
So let's try to form some kind of an organization. Sitapati is very good at that. He's good at getting things going. Good old Kshatriya spirit. So maybe we can put together some kind of a program with some of the other farms, other people, other devotees, and gradually more and more of the youngsters. I mean, I'm doing what I think that I'm supposed to do, which is try to remind people of who Prabhupada is. But I'm not capable of doing a lot of the heavy lifting, you might say, like Mahabuddhi is, and the warfare like Sitapati is. So we really all need one another, and let's see what we can put together. Maybe Pradyumna also can help. He's one of our techie guys up in Canada.
Yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, we need to. I think the next thing we need to do is do the episode and bring Tapapunja on, and then look at the ways where we can connect. But I really hear what Mahabuddhi Prabhu was saying about that the communication is key, and finding the like-minded devotees and creating those communication networks, those conversations. I've got like extra people are joining the waiting room. Someone named Dayanidhi can see is in there, and Vedavati Devi Dasi also. I might just bring them onto the stream and see what happens. And then we got one other question that I wanted to address in this podcast, which is about the book changes. I'm just going to bring Dayanidhi and Vedavati in randomly. I'm imagining that Gora has invited them, because this is what Gora does to me. He just like throws these curveballs, brings everyone on.
We love you, Gora.
We definitely do. You make life interesting. The spice of life. Okay, so we have someone. It says Vedavati Devi Dasi, and someone where it says Dayanidhi have joined.
Can you hear me? Hare Krishna. This is Dayanidhi Das.
Hare Krishna. Yes, we can hear you, Prabhu.
I really just got on when you mentioned that it's already over the 2-hour mark, so I missed everything except the last few comments. Gora did invite me. Thank you, Gora. I wanted to ask a question, somewhat controversial maybe, because that's the kind of guy I am.
Okay.
To Govinda Das. Govinda Dasi, I was hearing Mahabuddhi talk about that it's not just ISKCON, and I'm sure that you feel that same way too. But do you feel that, I'm totally a Prabhupada man, but I agree with Mahabuddhi that there's a lot of other very exalted souls in other sanghas. And I think all of those other souls do follow Prabhupada and have the utmost gratitude and appreciation for what Srila Prabhupada has done and is still doing. Do you also, how do you feel about devotees that are not, that are outside of this?
Well, I consider that I'm somewhat outside of ISKCON.
Well, how do you feel about other as taking shelter of people that aren't Srila Prabhupada directly?
At least modern day ISKCON. Well,
Yeah.
I think that all of the devotees, somebody made a statement once that whoever has heard about Krishna has heard about it from Srila Prabhupada. And the fact is, he came to this country, and so everything is really stemming from him. And I have no problem with all of the other sanghas. It's not my particular place is with him, but I have friends in many other sanghas. I have friends in the Narayan Maharaj Sangha and the Govinda Maharaj Sangha and the Siddhasarup Sangha and all over.
Okay.
And I don't have a problem with that. I think that my particular allegiance is to Srila Prabhupada, because after all, I spent 10 years being his disciple while he was present on this planet.
Right.
But I don't condemn others. However, I won't tolerate any defamation of him, which sometimes does happen, or at least I've heard that it happens. It's never happened to me. But I don't have a problem with that. I think, frankly, even to go beyond that when the actual collapse comes, I think we are going to be working together with people who probably are maybe even Christians, maybe even Buddhists, maybe,
Right.
I don't know that I don't know that we're going to have the luxury of having only Hare Krishna devotees to work together.
Yeah.
I mean, even right now,
Right.
I can say that about myself. I mean, my friends here where I am, they're all Christians.
Okay.
And
Right.
I have a Mennonite community nearby, just like Mahabuddhi is talking about the Amish in his area. Well, I have Mennonites in this area, and this is just where Krishna put me. It's not where I particularly wanted to be, but they have a lot of good ideas. I mean, they've all got wood stacked outside their houses. They all have their own schools, their own farms, and they drive trucks and build houses. Otherwise, they're very much like the Amish.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I think that I think that the books are the most important thing, and that I know that sometimes people are born in a particular religion or a particular path, and that Sukriti goes with them, and they become devotees quite often. I mean, there are many devotees who were from a very good family, good Christian family, or well, I know one right now, his mother was a Buddhist, and he's a very nice devotee.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
that's kind of how I see it. I'm much more liberal than a lot of people.
No,
in
that's
that
a great
respect,
answer.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm in
Can I
Northern
answer also?
California. Oh, I'm in Northern California, so I don't got the Amish. I don't have the Mennonites. In fact, I have a bunch of, you can just imagine.
Rednecks.
Yeah. No,
Woke
Northern
people.
California.
Woke.
Can I
Very
answer?
woke is it
Yeah, let's take thanks for the question, Dayanidhi Prabhu, and thank you for that answer, Mother Govinda Dasi. Let's hear from Mahabuddhi on this point, and then we'll go to Vedavati Devi Dasi.
I think
Mahabuddhi,
I think it's if you're looking at Varnashram's going to come not from like the Hare Krishna devotees that are just. It's going to be a mixture of whoever's coming to help. Whether they may not follow all the Prabhupada had explained. I mean, you engage people. They may not follow the principles. Some may. Some they'll have different people that will work according to different activities and what they're good at. So I think out of necessity they'll accept whether there's, a common work and food and shelter and defense, protection, all these things, and safety and a belief in God and a personal God. So, I mean, that's going to encompass, Christians and many others. And this, after all, we're a minority, at least in America here. We're a minority religion.
That's right. We're really a minority.
We're not going to have this idea of overpowering. It's going to be a mixture of a lot of things. So where the devotees will have to also prove their worth in the sense of doing it. Now, let's look at the different other aspects. I personally, like was said earlier to me, I was in Prabhupada's, like his SWAT team practically, right? And that's what he used to call us. We were his men. And I spent 5 years in hearing Prabhupada's lectures and, running his darshans and being sent here and there. So, Prabhupada's my spiritual master, but I don't accept the current, my godbrothers and junior, how they're running things. And for my spiritual development, Prabhupada introduced me to both Narayan Maharaj and Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar in my service. He personally introduced me, and then I had relationship. And so when all these crazy things were happening, when I spoke to Narayan Maharaj, and he was a great comfort. And, telling me, in chastising, you need to do what your spiritual master told you to. And quite frankly, I took Shiksha, in the sense of I've got to read so many other different literatures that Prabhupada had commanded us in the Bhagavatam, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that we have to read, that I haven't read because he didn't translate them. I'm getting a chance to hear our Guru Varga, our whole Gaudiya Varga, and understand that platform. So I don't see there's this, this separation, this Prabhupada's this, and then this was like a bunch of propaganda, really, because what happened is, do you believe the stuff they're saying now? And then all this stuff, well, this one's envious, this envious. I'll give an example, like for Narayan Maharaj. ISKCON wouldn't even be there if Narayan Maharaj didn't go to Bombay and testify on behalf of ISKCON for Prabhupada, that Prabhupada, he took sannyas and he was a sannyas. Otherwise, this whole society would have been ripped apart and been given to his son. And so many times that, there's friendship. There was over 100 letters back and forth. And I was there when some of these things were coming in. And so I don't have that, separatist mentality. I see a perfect blend. Now there's done things differently. Gaudiya Math does some things differently than ISKCON does some differently. So I do the things that's most familiar with me. If I don't volunteer if I'm in one of their temples to sing Mangal Arti because they have 3 different songs that, that are Gaudiya Vaishnava songs, but I don't know them. Okay, very well. So the thing is, there may be some, performance differences, but as far as, preaching the truth and being able to cooperate and stuff, I see that much more inclined in the Gaudiya Math than I do even in ISKCON. So there isn't that dichotomy so much between what a leader does and what they're supposed to be doing and following. So, I, for one, and many of my godbrothers, whether they're in, whether they took shelter of, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar or Narayan Maharaj or, Bhai Baba Puri or some of the other different people who aren't really envious. They were Prabhupada actually in the end of his life in November. And I have the tapes, which most of the people have never heard because they've ripped some of them off and banned them. But I have the original. I have a copy of the original ones. Prabhupada said the war is over.
How'd you get that?
And he said that we should no more of this ISKCON and Gaudiya Math. We should come together and serve for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, I'm always opposing Rupanuga Prabhu, who talks on 1974, where Prabhupada was angry at 3 of his godbrothers, and he should have been angry at 3 of his godbrothers. And so, Prabhupada, he left the Gaudiya Math. Prabhupada never left the Gaudiya Math. Okay, in ISKCON is an extension. It's in America, it's an extension. So we are all Gaudiyas, which means we don't have this divorce We've divorced the Gaudiya Math, and ISKCON stands alone. You know, who is Brahma, Narada, Muni, Vyasadeva, Madhvacharya, all these, they're all members of ISKCON, right? Because really ISKCON is coming down from Krishna. And Prabhupada named it for, you know, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness under one of the verses in the Bhagavatam, right? And what did he implement? For years he studied, you know, and he came out with a League of Devotees and tried for that. Then, you know, he was a lifetime in preparation. So, you know, the difference is we're making this divorce that has come from the propaganda for those who want to keep themselves in power. And when in reality, you know, this whole thing about my guru is better than your guru and this is all like nonsense. Okay. The bottom line is we need to become Krishna conscious. We need to have association of pure devotees. We have to follow in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we can't get along with our family. I mean, it's like if you're in a family, you can't get along with your cousins or your brother or your sister or your mother. So it's just like ridiculous, you know. And we're trying to. We've made more emphasis in battling between the different sanghas and stuff, and unlike the Mormons, unlike the Amish, unlike even mostly in these other religious communities, have made large strides. Where most of our strides has been fighting each other, and you know, something comes up and it gets torn down. So if we legitimately have to like give our respects to those devotees that are preaching pure Krishna consciousness and are not been disillusioned or affected by Maya, and they don't have these big pratista aspects of thinking I'm the pure devotee. Yesterday I was a Kanista Adhikari. Today by Vox Populi, I'm now a pure devotee. Seriously? You know, so we've come to accept a bunch of lies and a bunch of propaganda that we just have to realize, hey, it's not true. If you sample it and you experience it, it'll also help you progress toward what is the goal of Krishna consciousness. I've asked so many devotees, you know, my godbrothers who, well, you know, it's this, but what is the actual Gauravani of Srila Prabhupada? If they can't explain what the Gauravani is, and it's explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti, what is that Gauravani? If we don't even know what it is, then how can we say we're really disciples of Prabhupada? If we don't even know who's Prabhupada's, what's representing, what are the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Gauravani? So people aren't teaching a lot of this stuff anymore, not least in America. Most of the new devotees don't even know what the sadhya is, okay, because it's not being taught. And therefore, like I think Sitapati's wife was saying, there's a whole lot of younger people that have not been exposed really to Prabhupada's Krishna consciousness. So, right. And Prabhupada's Krishna consciousness was not like it's alone, we're completely devoid, we're not following Bhakti Siddhanta. I mean, seriously, if Prabhupada heard to say that, he would ban that person from his society. He was the most respected of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's, you know, disciples, who has done the most. He was that jewel. And some of his godbrothers were also very, very good like that. And everyone's, oh, his godbrothers were all envious. They weren't all envious. Some were. There's no doubt. I don't get along with some of my godbrothers either. That doesn't mean, oh, all the godbrothers are envious, or Mahabuddhi's envious of all the godbrothers. These wild, stretched regions, people, if they're Krishna conscious, they can help you. If they're Krishna conscious and in this Sangha or that Sangha, but they're part of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's program and they're following and they're preaching and their excitement and commitment is in their life, then you can feel it by what they're saying. Preaching is like a volcano that erupts. Okay, it comes from the heart and it comes out. Why? If you don't have life, you can't preach. So how do you get life if you're denying and offending all these devotees on behalf of thinking, oh, you know, Prabhupada didn't like this, and we were all that. We've been preached to by a lot of propaganda that says you can't go outside of ISKCON. Well, guess what? I did, and I'm glad I did. Not because, oh, I'm downplaying Prabhupada, but it's added onto my spiritual life. It made me more vibrant. You know, I did so much service for Prabhupada, but at the same time, you know, had to work on myself, had to work on understanding the higher concepts also of Christian consciousness that I didn't know. And now in relationship, I've made so many more new friends, both inside and outside the different movements. And, so why would we reject that? I mean, the idea is accept those things favorable, reject those things unfavorable. If someone's criticizing, I mean, I know my godbrother's disciples are many of them, some are saying Prabhupada's an ordinary man and he's this and that. I probably, if I was close to him, I'd either whack him, or severely chastise him. But their gurus are letting them go on and say that. How can they, if they're a Prabhupada disciple, allow their shishas to deprecate Prabhupada? He's an ordinary man based on some psycho garbage thing brought up from these materialists. I'm sorry. So that's not happening in other sanghas. So just because ISKCON is going through some, generation of difficulties or generations of difficulties, means everyone's off the planet. And therefore, for one who needs association, then one should go to wherever Krishna consciousness, wherever there's, even Prabhupada said it, Rupa Goswami, if someone in this world is Krishna consciousness. In the Mahabharata, it says the most rarest thing is one lava, 1/16th second association of a pure devotee. So that's the most rarest thing. So if someone has Krishna consciousness, one should beg, borrow, and steal whatever to go to it. It doesn't say, well, and during Lord Chaitanya's times, there were gurus all over the place. They were all disciples. They're all followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they were disciples of all these different elevated souls, and they all got along as a family, not as, not like this one likes this one or that one like that one, and this one, who my guru is better than you. All these this is like a Western mentality of change. Therefore, we've neglected really Krishna consciousness out of our speculative and desire for change. And Prabhupada said that. So if we want to reform that, we should be open to whoever's Krishna conscious, regardless of who they are or what part of the Gaudiya line they're coming from. And we should help others if they're having difficulties because they're thinking that Krishna consciousness is so narrow, I have to fall under this little sangha. Well, then they're going to have difficulties. But if they expand themselves and take association of devotees who are also preaching, who are also Krishna conscious, and they're also, within the Gaudiya family, then that's also a mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I'm not saying everyone should stop ISKCON and go to Gaudiya Math or stop the Gaudiya Math. I'm not preaching that. But wherever you can find Krishna consciousness, wherever that pure Krishna consciousness is being spoken, one should immediately go there without any reservations. If someone tells, oh, you can't go there, then leave that person. Anyway, so the other one thing before you kick it up. One thing before you you go into the other subject, you should never change Prabhupada's word after he left this planet, other than, I think Garuda had mentioned this in his thing, other than changing what he agreed to and things like misspellings or stuff like that. We have made Prabhupada's books not even representing Prabhupada, where some of the statements and things have been left out and changed the philosophy. 10 years from now, people say, oh, this is what Prabhupada said. It's not what Prabhupada said. They've changed it. We should never do it. It's demoniac to have done it. The Vaishnava principles is once the Acharya leaves the planet, you cannot change his words other than some misspellings or something he's already agreed to. And because we've done this wholesale, these literatures, Bhagavad Gita and whatever that they're selling, some of the GBCs, I won't mention their names, some of the different people actually burned Prabhupada's original books and threw them out so we can only take the ones from the international things of Jayadvaitas and Veda's work. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't accept that. I don't accept this platform of changing Prabhupada's words. And, whatever that falls down to, and whoever's done that, then so be it. Let them suffer the wrath of it. And they should, sorry. Anyway, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry at all. I mean, Garuda can attack from the scholarly platform, I would just like sit them up to the line and just like, well, who are you people that you're making these rules and guidelines? Where's your Krishna consciousness? Where is your respect for Prabhupada? If Prabhupada was standing in front of you, would you do this? I keep thinking, I had a lot of social with Prabhupada. If I had to go in front of him and say, well, Prabhupada, I just changed your word because I thought, I made a better presentation than you did. I mean, seriously? Would you do that? Someone would do that? They would be out on their ear. Probably ban them from life out of this phone.
Jai.
Wonderful.
Mahabuddhi Prabhu, yes, you're right. To that soul, or to those souls that are thinking that Srila Prabhupada was and is an ordinary man, I have to challenge your thinking here. And a 70 years old gentleman coming out of India to the USA, 69, sleeping for 3 hours, writing, teaching his disciples at 69 years old. I bet you youngster, you cannot even control your mind. You sleep 8, 10, 12 hours as you like, and you think Srila Prabhupada was an ordinary man. You know what? You need to do some reality check first, because Srila Prabhupada was not, will not ever be an ordinary man. He is not. So whoever
he's a direct descendant from Srimati Radharani. Direct descendant from Srimati Radharani come down in this Guru Varga. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you're thinking that, and your spiritual master, whoever is your spiritual master, I think both of you have to do some reality check. And that spiritual master is allowing you to talk that way about Srila Prabhupada. Both of you are just an impostors. Simple.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Straight facts. We have Vedavati Devi Dasi waiting patiently in the wings here. So let's take your call. Let me unmute you here so you can speak. Yeah, go ahead, caller. You're online. You're live.
How embarrassing. Hare Krishna, Prabhus.
Hare Krishna.
I can't follow Mahabuddhi with as much intelligence or knowledge, but I do agree nobody should have changed Srila Prabhupada's words in his books, and all the other groups, I'm not familiar with them. I heard about them, a few years ago, but I'm not familiar with them, and I always thought it was just us, just ISKCON, and so now I'm learning that, of course, there are some other groups. There's Gaudiya Math here and there, but I don't know much about them, and I've never been to any of their temples. And but some of my god brothers and sisters go to the Narayan temples, or they with Sridhar Maharaj, but I never. They don't talk much about it. So I'm not familiar with any of that really. I just associate with the devotees here, and then I'm learning some of you. I'm learning about some of you from a distance. I can't say anything very. What am I supposed to say? I don't know. What was the question?
maybe Mati, you could just give people a sense of who you are, because there'll be a lot of people, even for myself and my wife, we've never met you before.
Okay.
If you could just share with us about who you are and something about your life, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I was initiated in Seattle back in 1976, about April, and I didn't join up any specific temple, but I was in Los Angeles in 74 and 75, and one day Hanuman Das was giving the lecture in Los Angeles, and I was living in a commune in Santa Monica called One Life. And I used to come every Sunday. My friends, we all did, because it was the most fun thing to do. You know, go to the temple on Sunday, and then we would chant, meditate, whatever during the week. But my best friend moved into the temple there, and so I kept coming. And one day Hanuman was giving the lecture, and Sadhvi, the Devi Dasi, was distributing books amongst everyone who was having the feast. And she asked if I could speak Spanish and if I could drive a car, and would I come with them the next day. So that was an affirmative on both. So we went back to One Life and gathered my stuff up, and they all cried, and I got in the van and headed for Panama City with Hanuman, and that was 1975 in the summer. So then he was going to start a temple in Panama City, but we got all the way to Panama City and there was already a temple. So we were about 3 days, and then we came back to LA. And so I traveled with Hanuman all the way up to Vancouver, and then over to Montreal, where I left his company and his association, and Nandi Keshwar sent me back to Vancouver to be with Rochan and Pajavali. And so then my life's pretty much, I mean, our lives, right? They all just carried on, whatever. So then we went from Vancouver to Seattle, and Rochan put all the ladies in the van and moved us all to Seattle. And I did Sankirtan at the airport, and Pujari, and all kinds of things. And then of course we went to Philadelphia, and then we followed Rochan to England, and then I followed Rochan to Africa. So as far as devotional service, I'm a hardworking devotee, one of the hard workers. I'm not a great philosopher. I don't remember all the words, but I'm grateful to be in this organization, and grateful to be with all you devotees. I go to we have a temple here. It's in Hillsborough, not really Portland, but they do their best to have a nice temple over there. With we have some plays, and the temple president always encourages everybody to come and do service. So that's it.
Jai.
Yay!
Beautiful. That's beautiful, Mother Vedavati. And you know what? You said you don't have much to say. Actually, you have lots to say, because there are many people, perhaps in your situation, says, what do I do now? They are feeling isolated. And I think what you said speaks for those people. This is the time to connect to all of the devotees that have been isolated, maybe booted out from the temples. This is the place where we're going to connect. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted. All his children working together, supporting each other. And we're going to do this. Thank you, Mata.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So maybe we can go to this last question from Gaura Prabhu for today. It's about the book Changes, which Mahabuddhi Prabhu touched on at the end of his impassioned soliloquy. Let me pull up Gaura has left us. I'm not sure what happened there. He might have had something, some technological breakdown. But here's Gaura Prabhu's question. So one of the topics of today's talk is the book Changes. Some background: back in 1992, Jayadvaita Swami showed Gaura some of the edits he was working on, and they made sense, like the Sea Journey, cattle raising, Planet of the Trees. There was a paragraph that belonged in another purport. So on the basis of that, those edits seemed essential. So Gaura's question to Mother Govinda Dasi is, how much personal correspondence did you have with Jayadvaita Swami or Dravida about your concerns about the book edits? And what are some of the highlights of those discussions? Oh,
1 minute.
hang on. Yeah. Okay, while Mother Govinda is organizing things there, I just want to share or express how touched I am to be in the presence of Srila Prabhupada's direct disciples. And it really brings to life for me a lot of the things that I've read about. And then I'm actually with people who were there.
I went to turn on the light.
All good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Dana, you are condensing things down to exactly what needs to be done, which is that we need to organize ourselves. So far as Gore's question, yes, what essentially happened is that without the knowledge of Prabhupada's disciples, a handful of young men formed the BBTI, which means it's a very complicated, this is going to get into legal issues, which take a lot of time to explain. Essentially, Prabhupada left BBT is a trust. A trust is like an umbrella, a legal umbrella that protects the assets of someone, either monetary assets or copyright assets. So what they did was they took those assets out of the trust and formed something called Bhakti BBT International, which was a corporation. A corporation is a different entity completely. It's a for-profit corporation, at least that one was. And they proceeded to change the books without the knowledge of Prabhupada's disciples, although Rupanuga did smell a rat early on, and he did try to protest. And then they had a meeting in 1986, which I can send you a copy of the minutes of that meeting with the GBC. And Jayadeva was selected, essentially, to be the champion of the change to Gita and travel around the world, carte blanche, all expenses paid, go from temple to temple and present the reason for the changes. And there were a few, like Planet of the Trees, the cattle raising, and the seizure. There were a few simple misspellings, you might say. Planet of the Trees should have been peat trees. The sea journey, as you said, should have been the churning of the sea or whatever. So based on those few things that needed to be corrected, they did over 5,000 changes. They completely rewrote the book. That's what they did. So some of us, in particular, Kaylee, who is a librarian and knew how to do all the research, contacted universities all over the world, Harvard, Princeton, Oxford, you name it, and found out the proper procedures for editing. Posthumous editing is a completely different animal than editing. Posthumous editing means that the book is no longer authentic. The author has not seen it. Now, I'm talking on a level that is material. If we want to go into the spiritual, I mean, that's for material books, right? Not to be done. There are certain prescriptions. If you want to edit Hemingway's book, you have to put the name, the date. There are rules. And these are the things that we found out. You have to put the date of edit, the number of edition, the name of the person on the cover of the book, and or the title page. And so they didn't follow any of these rules, which essentially means that the books are not authentic from a scholarly perspective, which is a very important thing to Prabhupada. They removed certain scholars' opinions and so forth. Anyway, long story short, they did it completely wrong. If you go to any university and say, here, I have this book, well, it was posthumously edited, and none of the rules were followed. It's not considered authentic. Now, from a spiritual perspective, what Mahabuddhi was saying is very true. It's called Arsha Prayog. Arsha Prayog is actually something that Prabhupada himself spoke about. And he spoke about it because they wanted to edit his spiritual master's work, Brahma Samhita. And he was adamant. He said, you cannot even change a period. You cannot change anything, because it's called Arsha Prayog, means whatever the sage has said, because the sage is a pure devotee or a great saint, you can't change it in any way, shape, or form. So, so far as Mahabuddhi, he was talking about different devotees. It is true. I myself went to Narayan Maharaj and told him the issue. And his opinion was never to be done, never has been done in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, never would be done in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. You simply can't do that. Alter the works of the spiritual master after his departure. So from a spiritual point of view, as well as a mundane scholarly point of view, it really can't be done. But it was done. So it's a very complicated issue. Personally, I tend to believe that it had to happen, and it had to happen while we were still here on this planet to bring it to light. I don't think that it was an accident. I don't even hate Jaya Dwaita. I mean, I feel like, wow. I mean, Kaikei got the rap too, if you know what I mean. Somebody has to play the bad guy in these Leelas. So what they've done is opened up a can of worms, and the next 10,000 years, people will know that this was done. If they had done this 100 years from now, nobody would know. So I kind of see it in a positive light in that respect. That it's something that had to be brought to the surface, just like a lot of the things that are going on right now, the miscommunication and all the disinformation that's coming out of some of these leaders. It really has to be exposed now while there are people around that will expose it, that knows something, that were around Prabhupada. So I share that opinion. And so far as Gora's question, yes, we experienced that in Honolulu. What happened in Honolulu was that Jayadvaita came there along with all the other temples with a little tape recorder, and he played some tapes, and it was like a song and dance, very, very well practiced. And he took it to every temple all over the world, talking about why they had to change the books. And we had a meeting in Honolulu the next day, and it was recorded. In fact, I have the recordings, and Siddhanta has recently put them into digital from the tapes for me, available to go online. In that meeting, Jayadvaita said a lot of things, like, those books were horrible. I mean, there was a whole misunderstanding of what should have been done. And yeah, I guess you might say, I mean, you don't want to say it's a direct conspiracy, but it kind of was. So I hope that answers your question, Gora. I don't know if it does or not.
Thank you, Mother Govinda Dasi. Since you brought it up, the direct conspiracy, I'm just going to say this. You know, the book changes.
I need to turn on another light. Oh, I need
Sure.
to turn on another light. It's become quite dark here, you know.
Okay, so I'll just
Let's see.
pass time till you get back, because I know you don't have your headphones on and you're not going to hear anything that I say.
I can say one thing added on to Govinda Dasi's, that the International BBT had presented legally that Prabhupada was just a hired person for the International BBT. which really, like if that became known amongst the masses of devotees, it would be extremely, worrisome and let you let them to see that. We had also personally challenged Jayadvaita at my home. We brought him here, and without even me having to do stuff, my son ripped it apart. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's all I wanted to say on that one.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, Mahabuddhi Prabhu is just telling us about the time that Jayadvaita Swami came to his house and he personally challenged him about the book edits. I'd love to hear that.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hot topic.
We're here for it. Yeah, give us the hot take. Mahabuddhi Prabhu?
You want me to recount what took place?
Yes,
Well,
please.
we had, I invited him to come over. We were old friends. He used to travel, when Satsarup was Prabhupada's secretary, Jayadvaita or Hridayananda Maharaj would come with our party, so we used to have classes as a brahmachari with Hridayananda Maharaj, Jayadvaita, and Satsarup every day, for I don't know, number of years. And then they all split up, traveled in. So we knew him we knew him pretty well, because since I was, a bhakta, I really just became disillusioned with all this book changing stuff. And so when I brought him to my home, and I said, okay, now give a class. You have to at least speak while you're here. So I handed him Prabhupada's original Bhagavad Gita, which is the only ones I have in my house. The other ones I don't keep at all. I only keep the 72, and there's 174 edition where Prabhupada made the last changes. So that's it. If you don't have one of those, then they're not welcome in my house. So he goes, I said, yes, this is Prabhupada. This is original. You want to preach on it? Then you need to speak from his original, not your edition. So we started like that. And then gradually he starts saying, oh, well, it's, the editing, there's different styles of editing. So what kind of style of editing is where you actually change the meanings and add your own meanings and rewrite things that you think you've done better than Srila Prabhupada. And my son came out and he started blasting, so what, you're supporting gay rights and gay marriages and all shooting up poison into people's veins and pedophilia and all this stuff. That's okay, and that can be supported, but Prabhupada's books, no, they're not sacred. You've made them unsacred. And he didn't know what to say, and finally said, you guys are a real Kshatriya family. I said, well, Kshatriya family or not Kshatriya family, the idea is you've made a great blunder in changing Prabhupada's books. And I said, if you don't really apologize for that, it'll take great effect on your spiritual life. And then we kind of ended at that. Yeah. So that was that. I don't want to speak too much more about it because, it's just really upsetting. But I think that's enough to say. I don't want to go into the blow by blow because it got somewhat even more, incredulous that, how can you possibly think that as a brahmachari, as an editor, that whatever you do is better than what Prabhupada could have said as a pure devotee representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of our Gaudiya line, and you're just want to make your rendition after he's already gone as the rendition. And then what they're doing with all the other Prabhupada's original books, you can't even, unless you get them, I guess, from KrishnaBooks.org or something, you can't even find them, where people are not allowing in the temple. And I've heard classes, before that are presenting, different Prabhupada's books, and because it's missing some of the purport information, when they're speaking on it, they have no clue what actually Prabhupada said. It's just they off in another category. So, that's very difficult to forgive if you're a Prabhupada disciple. And I'm not saying that, facetiously. It's just like, that I don't want to associate with someone who's done like that. And it's not, I dislike someone. it's just, that's such an egregious offense that I don't want to be around someone who's doing that, you know. And I don't want to like have to think all the time poorly of my godbrothers or something, because that's also, you know, that comes back, you know, whatever you throw out will come right back at you. So the difference is, you know, passionately, we have to defend Prabhupada after his disappearance, because if we as disciples, you know, and don't, then who will? Because the next generation doesn't know what even they're missing. They don't even know they don't know the difference.
That's right.
Because they've not been changed. They've not been told Prabhupada's, they haven't seen those books, because they're nowhere in that society to even be found unless someone's bought them before and have them in their house as contraband or something. So it's really a sad shape that way.
Yes.
Before you close, when you do that, I wanted to read a couple things from Prabhupada's Sannyas Guru that about speaking the truth fearlessly and about agriculture. It's a couple statements, I think, for I think it was Dayanidhi who was asking that, or to hear what, you know, Prabhupada's Sannyas Guru, who was also known as a Lionheart preacher, had to say. So we can see the tradition that Prabhupada, from his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta, his Sannyas Guru, and Prabhupada, and who Prabhupada, you know, had also told us to take shelter of. They're all like fierce lion speaking heart. Good.
Lions.
And these statements, I can guarantee you, have not been heard pretty much in the ISKCON realm, and they're so wonderful, and I think it'll go very good for Sitapati and others who, you know, will come under attack like I have been for years. I'm so used to it already, it's not a big deal. But others, you know, who will become under attack and ostracized and singled out and banned for speaking the truth, these are great words of encouragement. So let me do it before you end, so that I can at least let it be heard by some devotees that may be listening to this.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, we will end with that. I'd just like to. This was what I was about to touch on before you created what you just created, Mahabuddhi Prabhu, and it goes perfectly with it. A couple of things. Namras's podcast in 2021, he asked me to come on to talk about the vaccination issue, and I gave that podcast there. It's like one of the top rated ones on there. A lot of devotees have seen it. I still get messages to this day from devotees about it. And it was that ISKCON's taking a position on vaccination is a philosophical deviation. And it was, in a sense, a reaction to having 5 ISKCON senior leaders come out on Dandavats.com and give these glowing product testimonials for this as yet untested experimental allopathic injection, which really has nothing to do with the mission of Krishna consciousness. And so that was what put us onto it, because we were like, hey, better that you said nothing about it at all than to have said this. And you know, we said whatever we said there, we distinguished whatever we distinguished, but then later I started looking into other things based on that, and the book Changes was something, as you say, it's not really presented. Like I recently discovered that out of this bunch of Bhagavad Gitas that I have here, I have multiple Bhagavad Gitas that claim to be the second edition, but that contain different content. And I'm just like, this second edition is a lie. And nobody has ever told me this. And the fact that this is being done in this way is itself satanic. It's deceptive. It is tamasic at the very least. But what I discovered in starting to look into this and a number of other things is that there's an unfortunate overlap of the personalities who are involved in them. So I find the same personalities who are promoting the COVID vaccine inside the Sangha of devotees from their position as an ISKCON leader are also justifying and deflecting criticism from the book Changes. So we have people who are promoting COVID vaccines, and then in another scene over here, they're also like blowing a smoke screen in front of the book Changes for the devotees. And I'm like, hang on a second. How come the same people are involved in these two different things? And this speaks to is it a conspiracy? You know, at a certain point, explanations of coincidence and your explanation of like well-intentioned but incompetent making a misstep, they start to become too fantastic, because, you know, although we're trained to think that conspiracies are, you know, not really a thing, at a certain point you just go like, listen, it's ridiculous to call this a coincidence and incompetence. Like, it's too much coincidence, too much incompetence. Even if the person on the front line themselves is not a conspirator, they're part of it. You can go back. Mother Vedavati was talking about Rochana Prabhu. He has a website, Sampradaya Sun. Sampradaya Sun was the only website that published my counterpoint to the glowing product testimonials, which was vaccinate yourself with bhakti. I was like, why these guys are I don't care about what you want to take for your medical thing. Like, why taking Panadol was the right decision for my headache. I'm like, I don't care. Why suddenly in 2021 you come out and it's suddenly a thing that you're talking about this? This is not your job. So I wrote my article, vaccinate yourself with bhakti, why I'm not taking the injections. No one would publish it except for Rochan Prabhu's website. But if you go on Rochan Prabhu's website and go back through history, you will see me carrying water and defending the organizational structure that has done the book changes, that has concealed the molestation and pedophilia of the children. So you'll see me carrying water, and you'll see devotees on that website criticizing me for being a hatchet man for these people and for this organization. So it's not that everyone who is involved in the conspiracy is a conscious conspirator, but without a doubt, I was one of the people hiding, you know, participating and hiding these book changes from the devotees, even though I didn't know it myself. You know, was that a coincidence? Was that incompetence? It's naivety and a lack of confronting what's going on. And this COVID pandemic just drove it so hard and so far that I was like, dude, you just stepped over some line here where I'm going to go back and not only look at why you got involved in promoting this experimental injection to the devotees, but what else has been going on behind this. And then once I started looking into it, I found the same personalities involved in multiple different things, and the book Changes is one of them. And so we have our children. We do a daily Bhagavad Gita verse broadcast on Facebook, and our two children, Prahlad and Isha, they're doing it together now. Prahlad's 20, Isha's 14, and we've got them going through the first edition, the second edition, Jayadvaita Swami's annotated Macmillan, where he did the edits. Madhu Devisa Prabhu, who has produced a side-by-side comparison of both editions, showing you what's changed. It's just egregious that they would do that. First of all, that they would do the changes, and second of all, that they would do the changes in such a way that the only way you can figure out what's changed is if you personally go through the whole thing, combing through it. That is just like massively incompetent or just deceptive. And I say that it's deceptive. It's deceptive. Madhu Devisa's gone and created that so you can see it. That is the Sattva Guna, illumination, that there is transparency and accountability for what's being done. Mm-hmm. And they're going through it and they're comparing the two with their critical intelligence and going, why was this changed? Why has this been done? And then at the bottom of the whole thing is, why would you change anything at all? But even if the reality is it has been changed. And as a critical thinking person, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned by Srila Prabhupada in his purport to Bhagavad Gita 434. And we're not raising mindless cult members here. We're raising reasoned, critically thinking, fanatical cult members. They're going to be both. They're not just going to be blind following. They're going to reason their way into it. They're going to be able to defend it. They're going to come to their own conclusion, and then they're going to have unshakable faith in what they arrive at, not like some eternal Kanishta where it's like, don't look at the book changes because that's offensive. I find it offensive that you made those changes. You introduced this area of darkness and obscurity to the entire process and shook thinking devotees' faith in the books, and that you find it offensive that people would question that. Anyway, that's my rant on the book changes.
You know,
very good rant. Very good rant. Very good rant.
Can I say one thing? I know this has been super long, and tell me if there's going to be another meeting that I can join. When are these meetings?
Yeah, we do a podcast every weekend.
Okay.
at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we can have you back on for a longer form discussion, Prabhu.
Okay. I definitely have some things to say and why I've been bewildered about these book changes. I'm in the same temple as Vaisheshika Prabhu, who was very encouraging me to take, well, not to take, but he was so happy when I took re-initiation from Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Maharaj. I was first Jaya Tirtha and then Bhavananda. And I met Srila Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Maharaj, and he very much encouraged me. He invited Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Maharaj to his house. So I've been a strong follower of Vaisheshika. He's helped me out a lot. And I got to tell you, there's some things about these book changes that I held on to for a long time, and but I won't say it now. I'll just say that I went to Govardhan in 2018, and I stayed with Vaisheshika and Keshava Bharati, and they read the Srimad Bhagavatam for 5 hours a day, every day for a month, and I was there. And boy, did they come up with, every day there was one or two changes that they were going to send to, I guess, Jayadvaita Maharaj, I don't know, because it's supposed to be college professor English or something. This was the idea, and I was going along with it, thinking, they must be right, and but now since the COVID came and Vaisheshika wasn't supporting the clot shot, it really destroyed my faith, after years of being very staunch follower of his. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we got, thank you for that, Prabhu. Govinda Dasi has her hand up, and so does Dana Devi. So let's go with Govinda Dasi. Thank you, Dayanidhi Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dayanidhi Prabhu, because this is exactly what I have been talking about.
Smoking
that
gun.
People are losing faith because of the books is one thing, but now the clot shot also. I can tell you, though, that one thing, Sitapati, you must know that many, many Prabhupada disciples did not even know that the books had been changed, because we all had our original books. Not one single one of us didn't have our original books. Even I didn't know until I was on the mainland in, I think, 1998 or maybe 94. And I bought a Gita at a temple because I was taking a writing course, and I found out that I was going to write something about the Gita. And I started reading the book, and it was like, whoa, it was a different book. What the hell happened to this book? I was shocked. I couldn't figure it out. So even in the last few years, devotees did not know. Prabhupada disciples did not know how many changes were there. It was done so deceptively. And putting a 1971 signature, slapping that into a book that was printed years later. So one thing I really appreciate is the fact that many people now are losing faith in these gurus, in the direction the ISKCON is gone, or whether it's, I'm not talking about inside, outside, just generally speaking. So it is our time now to step forward, get organized, and try to help those who have been deceived. A lot of them are not completely, a lot of them are really sincere, but they've just been deceived. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mother Govinda
Thank you
Dasi.
very much. Thank you all. Thank you all for putting this together. It's a wonderful plan to start having these meetings. And I'm sure that we can bring different devotees on. I mean, I know scads of Prabhupada devotees who don't go along with the bullshit. I know lots of them. And if we can help to educate the youngsters in this way, it will be a great service to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, fantastic. We will do it. So let's move to kind of wrapping up now. Dana Devi, you wanted to say something?
Prabhu Dayanidhi, you were mentioning about that you have lots more to say. Great. Keep it, because we need you for next week. And for all of the devotees that have been exposed, they know, they have observed any behaviors or anything that you know that now is your time to speak up. You must do, this is your duty, this is your responsibility, because on you lays the new generation that is coming. What Srila Prabhupada built was a world for everyone to live. And there are a bunch of people that are destroying this. Obviously, the Rakshasas don't want a world that is, harmoniously working. That's what Srila Prabhupada and Sri Krishna wants. They don't want that. Therefore, they're destroying. But it's now our time. It is your time to speak up, to bring up exactly what you have observed, what you know about this, because we need to expose them. We're not dealing with any teenagers playing up a game of playing pranks. They know what they're doing. So we're waiting for you guys to speak up. And for dear Mata Govinda Dasi and Prabhu, Mahabuddhi Prabhu, this book Changes has been done by highly incompetent people or highly envious people. There's nothing else. Mm-hmm. So you are so envious of Srila Prabhupada that you think that are superior to him and you can change. And that all of the circle of people that went along with that, you are part of that circle. Mm-hmm. You're highly incompetent or you're highly envious of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Krishna. It is clear. So there's no way that you can bring up your new theory of you just changing a comma for a full stop. It's not. Because as Jaya White Swami was saying in one of his videos, nobody will understand what we're doing. You know what? You got it wrong. Because there are highly intelligent people that knows how to read, and they're quite transparent, and they will put you on the spot. But you have no way to get out of here. Your end has come now. And for all of these people that are in this circle, you guys infiltrated in Srila Prabhupada's movement. You just playing your game. Temporary game, but we know what is the end. Krishna always wins. So prepare for your end.
Very good.
Other Kshatriya family.
Real Kshatriyas. We got some warriors here.
So you're going to hear me say that I don't agree with incompetent and envious, because I know a lot of Prabhupada disciples that for whatever reason, I don't understand it, but I don't think they're incompetent and I don't think they're envious. And that's where I have a hard time. So I'm also super honest with how I feel. And I just can't believe that Vaisheshika is either envious or incompetent. So I don't know. But, Mahabuddhi, I don't know how well you know Vaisheshika or Govinda Dasi. And I know this isn't the time, and I'll definitely come next Sunday. I'm not sure how I'll come without another link, but
we'll get it to you, Prabhu.
We'll be in touch, Prabhu. Yeah.
All right.
It is subtle, Prabhu. There are many things that are very subtle, and this is the time to discuss the subtleness and how it's expressed. So hold on there.
I will. Bhagavat Maharaj and Bhaktadas. Those are two good Prabhus to get on this thing. They're both against the clot shot. They're both against the changes in the books, and they're very old devotees. Bhaktadas and Bhagavat Maharaj. I can think of two right offhand.
Yeah, wonderful. Lots of
we
them.
can give you many about God, brothers.
Yeah, it's a real bug. It's a real Bhagavad Gita moment, hang on a second. Hang on. What? How did I end up on the battlefield on the other side from Bhishma, Dave? Right. What? What is going on here? Krishna, I'm bewildered about my duty, and I've lost all my composure due to miserly weakness. How can I? Bhishma Maham Sankye, Katam Bhishma Maham Sankye, Dranam Chamaru Sudana. How can I counter Ishuri Pratyotsayami Pujatavari Sudana? How can I counterattack in battle with arrows men who are worthy of my respect? I said this on the Namras podcast. This is what devotees are dealing with. It's the Bhagavad Gita moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, we've dropped down to 4 participants here. Let's move to wrapping up. How about we do it like this? How about we'll start from here, from us, and then we'll go to Dayanidhi Prabhu, to Govinda Dasi, and then to Mahabuddhi Prabhu with the statements from is it Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Maharaj that you are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start from us, to wrap up.
I really appreciate for this moment, all of you. This is not just a mere coincidence that, you decided to link and click and you have to say a few words of what you think or what you believe. This is actually what Srila Prabhupada is guiding. This is what Shri Krishna wants. So you are playing in this Leela, and it's your part to play and count on Krishna. Victory is on your side. And Krishna himself said, Srila Prabhupada taught you many times, or taught us many times about it. Count with Krishna, because no one can get away with anything, because Krishna knows everything. Thank you to you. Thank you for being great warriors and putting things right. Thank you.
Nice.
Jai. As Vedanta Sutra says, Lokavat tu lila kaivalyam. This world is just the play of the supreme Brahman. As Shakespeare said, the world's a stage and all the men and women are actors upon it. And fortunately, we have a copy of the script. There's the script in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter of the 12th canto, Symptoms of Kali Yuga, described, as Mahabuddhi Prabhu was sharing. And then we also have from a assistant director, Srila Prabhupada, a foreshadowing of what happens in this part of the chapter. It's the collapse, it's the civilizational meltdown. The book changes are there. The shape-shifting demons are there, and they're real. And we know that in this chapter here, we win. And we establish Daivi Varnashram Dharma and the Sri Krishna Sankirtanam on this planet for the next 10,000 years. And the law books of Srila Prabhupada, by which I mean the first edition, are the law books of the next 10,000 years. So we know how this ends. And all that there is for us to do is become the instruments of the Lord. And even the Asuras, they are also playing their part too. And the devotees who get bewildered and join them. And so it is a great privilege for me to be with you and to be accepted as some small part. As let me just share this. In 1998, I lost my faith and I found Srila Sridhar Maharaj's book, Sri Guru and His Grace. And I got connected with Swami Bhaktivedanta Tripurari and had faith in Srila Prabhupada's godbrother through him. And one time, devotees, Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, they went to Srila Sridhar Maharaj and they said, Swami Maharaj, talking about our Srila Prabhupada, he has said that we are useless, asara, and we are simply ringing the bell in the temple. I think it might have been Achyutananda who leaked that conversation to them. I'm speculating on that point there, but we can ask him. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, such a broad-minded Vaishnava, he said this. He said, Swami Maharaj, he is doing such great kirtan in the world. I think if he will accept us as the bell ringer in his band, that is very nice. So I think of myself as being a bell ringer in the band here, offering puja to your great personalities, and it's a great honor for me to have that role. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, Dayanidhi Prabhu.
Well, I'm glad to be part of this, and I'll definitely come next. So many things going through my mind. Anyway, I was getting ahimsa milk from Tripurari Maharaj's farm a couple of years ago for the ISKCON temple here, Vaisheshika's ISB. For almost 2 years, I was getting milk from his farm, and then when the COVID came, they told me I couldn't come unless I got a shot. Tripurari Maharaj was very fanatical about it. He says, if you don't take the shot, then you can't come to the farm and get the milk. So I didn't get the milk. There's just so many things. I think the Varnashram is huge. And this Tapa Punj, is he a Varnashram person or something? What's he about?
He is. He's a powerful Vaishya leader.
Okay. So, I'm hoping one of these days I'll come into some money. And, not hoping, but anyway, I will come into some money at some point, and I would love to get out of here and live on a farm somewhere. You know, and Govinda Dasi, I love reading and hearing about your early pastimes with Prabhupada. I love all the Prabhupada memories, and all your memories of Prabhupada, you know, were just wonderful. And I can, you know, I understand why, you know, Prabhupada is everything to you, and Prabhupada's everything to me too. You know, after Jayatirtha and Bhavananda actually, is messed up as he was, he got me more into Prabhupada, and that's when Satsru's Prabhupada Leelamritas came out, and I know some people criticize those, but anyway, that really got me more into Prabhupada, and I'm totally a Prabhupada man. And the only reason I took Bhaktivinoda Baba Puri Maharaj, besides him being a pure devotee, is that he was a Prabhupada man, you know. So all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, Govinda Dasi, all glories to you, Mahabuddhi, all glories to you, Sitapati. You're a disciple of Devamrita Swami, right? You're the one that did all the Harinam Australia.
Yeah, we live in New Zealand, and yes, I am a disciple of Devamrita Swami. I took my Diksha initiation into the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya from him.
Well, I also love what you did there in New Zealand. Amazing, great stuff. Dandavats to you all.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Mother Govinda Dasi.
Yes, Sitapati is our Sankirtan hero. We are proud of him all over the world. We are proud of him because he stood up for what was right. And Gora is our hero. You wouldn't think. I mean, we always thought Canadians were very docile, gentle people, but by golly, we got some Kshatriyas in Canada too. And they did a wonderful job at the Canadian convoy. And, you know, from a higher perspective, I hate to say it like this, but this shot, this clot shot, maybe, I mean, some of Prabhupada's godbrothers and some of the sadhus in Vrindavan, even 15, 20 years ago, said that by 2025 or 2028, 3/4 of the world population would be gone. Maybe this is one way it's going to happen. And maybe this is one way. I hate to put it like this, but Krishna is in charge, and there's a lot of leaders who decided to take the poison. I didn't do it, you know, and you didn't do it. It's not our fault. But I think you know what I'm getting at here. Anyway, thank you so much. This is a great beginning. I hope that we can organize some programs like this so that we are able to reach more and more of the young people and old people who are isolated and disillusioned, because we don't have a lot of time. We really need to get going. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Mahabuddhi Prabhu, please take it home for us.
Jai Dandavat Pranams. So these sayings, I'm going to say 3 of them here, are from the Bhakti Pragyan Keshava. And for those of you who don't know who he is, that's Prabhupada's sannyas guru and his godbrother, who Prabhupada was also the founding member of the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, as you know, as well as ISKCON, and he took sannyas from this Bhakti Pragyan Keshava, who also, as a disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta, was extremely lion-hearted, from which he is the guru of Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and they were all 3 of them were all very much. Even though Narayan Maharaj was a Shishya of Bhakti Pragyan Keshava, he also served Prabhupada, and Prabhupada and Bhakti Pragyan Keshava were godbrothers and friends before he accepted sannyas. So he said these 3 things, which I think are relevant to our discussion. The first one I'm going to do, very short one on agriculture and farming, and the next 2 will be about speaking the truth. And I think it's a good way to kind of end this. So his statement on agriculture and farming: those who consider farming to be somehow inappropriate for Vaishnavas and forcibly stop them from doing it are hypocrites and rogues. Such people do not even know what it means to be a Vaishnava or what Vaishnava Dharma is. Thus, they cannot become pure teachers of Vaishnava Dharma and are not to be accepted within such ranks. On these two next will be on speaking the truth fearlessly, and I'll speak the next one after that too. He said, there is not a word of Sriman Mahaprabhu's teaching that is unscriptural, illogical, or unfounded. All other preachers, so-called religious orders and preceptors, however, have propagated and continue to propagate irrational opinions that are more or less concocted and contrary to the conclusions of the scriptures in order to gain repute in present-day society. It is crucial to speak the truth fearlessly. Bhagavan is not for those who are faint at heart. The Upanishad states, Nayamatma balahina labhya. Self-realization cannot be attained by weakness. Craven individuals manipulate spiritual dialogue by claiming all is well, all is well. This only serves to reveal their frailty in the process of bhajan. You must vehemently oppose this. If necessary, I am ready to appear in an open assembly to debate these matters. As Bhakti Gyan Keshava spoke this in 1960. And this last one is kind of like, there's more, but I really like this one too. And I think this is also very good for this particular time. And it's entitled, Bhakti is not for the weak, timid, and cowardly. Rabhoju Varasundara, which means the earth is enjoyed by the valiant. It is crucial to remember these words. It is not right to imagine that the servants of Madhurya Ras lack valor. Madhurya Ras is the complete Ras, wherein dwell all 12 Rasas. Where necessary, they all manifest in the servants of Madhurya Ras. Inactivity is the emblem of sloth. To renounce what is actually favorable for the service of Sri Hari, considering it vice, is to blunder. To protect one paisa belonging to Sri Krishna's lotus feet, we may permit the destructions of hundreds of thousands. This is the teachings of exalted persons like Srila Prabhupada. Nayamatma balahina labhya. One cannot attain Paramatma if one is lacking in strength. Upon reflection on this statement from the Upanishads, it becomes clear that Bhagavad Bhajan is not for the weak or timid, nor for cowards. Thanks to the stupidity of phony sentimentalists, sahajas, the dharma of the Sri Gaudiya Vaishnavas, what Sri Mahaprabhu came to teach and preach is lapsing into oblivion. Unlike the sahajas, we do not display the slightest hint of weakness in preaching the message of Mahaprabhu. Weakness of heart, Hridaya Durlabhya, is the foremost obstacle in performing Hari Bhajan. Those thoroughly free of this flaw are most qualified to preach. They alone are worthy of making disciples the world over. Courage, symptomatically, is not passive. The function of consciousness is action. We have had the fortune to be born in the spiritual family of such valiant personalities as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Moreover, we maintain claim to the lineage of Sri Madhvacharya, the veritable emblem of strength and courage. It is the weak, cowardly, impotent, and lazy who are following the efforts of those Babajis, Matajis, and caste Goswamis of today who are antagonistic to Bhagavad Bhakti. We will not replicate the devotional blunders of the Sahajas, the true purport of Trinadapi Sunachena, feeling oneself lower than a blade of grass, is Labe Late Maratara Sira Upare. Kick them in the head. These words are found in the writings of Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur. If you remember Srila Narottam Das Thakur's words, Kroda Bhakti Dveshe Dhyane, May my anger be channeled toward those inimical to the devotees. So these are very powerful words meant to enunciate courage in the heart of the Vaishnavas, to preach boldly and fearlessly. Actually, we are descendants, as was stated here. Also, this was prior to Prabhupada's coming to the West. Prabhupada also, in this same line, lion-hearted, if we claim ourselves to be descendants of in this lineage and descendants of Prabhupada, either as disciples or grand disciples or whatever, then we have to be able to stand and say the truth. However unpopular we may be, or how it may divide us from those who have, and who are not maintaining the truth. You may be banned, like I am banned from being able to speak. I can go any of the temple I want. They just don't want me to speak, not because I'm not speaking the truth, but because I am speaking the truth. So similarly, you should expect also in speaking the truth, not everyone is going to be very happy about what you have to say. But nevertheless, as we understood in even this this discussion of like mass transformation, that at least 30% of the people have to be able to speak out and say the truth. Otherwise, the overwhelming majority will just go along with whatever is being done, and therefore, not only they bury Prabhupada, but they'll bury the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as sahajas, as irrelevant personalities, and thus, the preaching of 500 years since the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be, in jeopardy. But because there's unity also amongst truth sayers and real Gaudiya Vaishnavas, then they're willing to give their lives to such a principle as Prabhupada and our Guru Varga has given us. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us that high platform of love, and that Gauravani, that Radhadasyam, that Prabhupada installed also in all of his disciples. We could see that love Prabhupada was given. So, we are obligated, regardless of our political and philosophical and our which diksha we've taken from where, to speak the truth for the benefit of not only those who have come before us, but those who come after us. And I apologize if I sound too, you can put in your own adjective there. But the bottom line is that we're not here to offend anyone, but we're here to stand very strongly on our Guru Varga and Srila Prabhupada's, missions that he committed himself to, that we are become a part of. And we deny and do not accept those who are actually trying, under the realm of authorities, trying to tear it down by speculation and hiding the truth, and actually causing harm to both philosophically and physically, to devotees. So I'm thankful. I probably won't be invited into another meeting after this, but I'm very appreciative of the opportunity of speaking out. I generally don't go to too many online or business, so I'm not like going to be, the most popular character, but I speak, and whomever knows me and knows that they're going to get what they're going to get. And at least from Mahabuddhi's perspective, I'm staying true to what Prabhupada told me, and to what my Shiksha Guru told me, and to what I've been able to understand within my heart. And my only hope is that those that are actually out there can actually, and hearing, can hear the truth, develop their critical thinking, at the same time develop their surrender to Srila Prabhupada or their Guru Maharajas, in, if they're following Krishna consciousness, whatever their Sangha is. And by surrender to Guru and Krishna and the Radharani, then I am sure from within their heart, Tesam satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mambhayanti. They will be given the intelligence to be able to know what is the truth and go forward. Prabhupada told me, after he made me chant this prayer like a Bhagavatam prayer. And he finished, and everyone was saying, "Oh, Mahabuddhi gets the personal instruction." He walked a few feet forward, and then he turned back, and he said to me, "In this way, Krishna will always provide you the intelligence to know the truth." Hare Krishna, thank you very much for being able to, being able to have this, darshan of Govinda Dasi and Sitapati and Daini and Gora, that, there are devotees out there that are not afraid. They may not be advertised everywhere. They may not be seeking recognition, but they're also not fearful. So make no mistake that, there's life out there in the spiritual realm. It just may not be so cognizant to all the devotees. Hare Krishna, Panchakalpatubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha, Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Guru Varga Ki Jai, Lord Criminal.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Prabhu. We will have you.
Sitapati,
We need more of you, Prabhu.
Is this recorded or not?
Yes, this is recorded. It will be on YouTube. I'll send a link
Oh,
out so you can share it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So we should expect getting
and all of
It
you
soon.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, because
All glories
there's
to
a
Srila
lot of
Prabhupada.
devotees who need to watch this. Mahabuddhi, you did a great job. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
all glories
Thank
to
you.
Srila
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam.
Parambi Jayate Shri Krishna
Dandavat,
Sankirtanam.
Dandavat.
Total
Ki
world
Jai.
victory of Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Radhe
Jai.
Radhe 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 Sham.
Hare Bol.
Radhe Shyam.